All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the stream. Welcome if you are new here. Thank you guys so much for joining me today and for waiting patiently, as always, for the intro to finish up. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to adjust the microphone here. I hope everybody's doing well today. What's today? Thursday? Losing track of the days. I see we have a super chat from Josh Z right off the bat. Josh, thank you for that, buddy. You're saying the internet, as usual, is making a bigger deal of something than it actually is. It's not like every game price is going to be $80. Besides, anyone willing to pay more than $60 for a AAA will pay any price. Interesting take, Josh. I don't know that I agree per se when it comes to... I don't know that I agree with this take, only because what I found so interesting, and I guess, I don't know, I should probably slow down my roll here and let more people file in, but I was kind of shocked when I wrapped up my stream yesterday. For those who were watching, I didn't stick around for the price of the games to be announced. I didn't know that was going to be a thing. And so I was shocked like 10 to 15 minutes after I finished my stream to see like, whoa, what's going on here? And Corey the Legend Landiga comes in right off the bat and drops a 5-bomb on you guys. 5 memberships gifted, courtesy of Corey. Corey, thank you so much, buddy.
I'm no hero. Never was. Never will be.
Yeah, we get 20 more members. We get to 25. We'll feed the beast. Let me just add this to the counter real quick. But yeah, when I saw that, Nintendo was increasing the prices of their games yesterday, I was like, whoa, holy crap. Did not expect that. And so the reason why I'm saying that, Josh, is because I was... When I was finished the Nintendo stream, if I'm being completely honest, I was like, I'm good. I know Mrs. MBG was excited about some of what she saw, and she's excited for the Switch too. But just speaking for me, I'm like, I'm good. I kind of expected that going in, and they announced the pricing of it. I'm like, $450, $500 for the bundle. Okay. I wasn't shocked by that. I was thinking it was going to be $400, but $100 difference, not huge, I would say. For some people, I did notice some people are taking umbrage with the price of the Switch 2 itself. But when I saw the price of the games, I was like, when it first came out, I noticed there was nothing. Like everybody was just so high off of the Nintendo Direct. Everybody was so high off of it. And I was like, guys, like, there's definitely going to be some pushback here, right? And I won't lie to you. A part of why I'm feeling this way, or why I was thinking that, is because I was just imagining, like, what if Sony did something like this? If Sony did, like, half of this stuff, how would the internet react? How would people react? And I already know. I've seen people act like, PlayStation has completely ruined gaming over stuff way smaller than this. So I was just like, the expectation for me was basically this. There needs to be pushback because it is a big deal. And it's not something that everybody should just collectively be like, this is great. Does there need to be enough pushback to create another Wii U situation? Probably not. Honestly, believe it or not, I do still think Nintendo will be okay. And, I'll give my own personal thoughts on the pricing of the games and whatnot, but I'm just trying to think more broadly and holistically here. I think Nintendo will be okay. I think the Switch 2 will be okay. But I just felt like, man, there has to be... Like, I'll be honest, it was just kind of like one of these things where it's like, there's no way Nintendo can slide on by like this is a W. There's just no way. And I was happy to see that the internet did... they did kind of call them out on this, where it's like, bro, what is going on? You think the lighting looks good? Oh, all right, cool. I'll try to replicate this. But let me see here. I want to make sure I can keep up with the super chats. MRPD, a member for 20 months, says 80 US dollars is over 100 Canadian. I'm walking to Japan and going to look the president of Nintendo in the eye and KMS and change the trajectory of his life. So MRPD, I'm assuming the Switch 2 is a day one buy for you, and you're looking forward to buying $90 physical games. What's interesting to me about the whole Nintendo situation here is I don't care about Nintendo. I was kind of hoping that after the direct yesterday that I would feel more like, okay, I'm on board here. I get it now. But I guess that was kind of foolish of me because it's like, well, if you didn't get it before, you're probably not just going to suddenly get it now. It's not just going to click suddenly. And yeah, it didn't. I'm like, I'm good, man. Um, but it did make me feel kind of nervous about what does this mean for PlayStation? Like, what does this mean for next generation? What does it mean for the PS6? What does it mean for the pricing of Sony's digital and physical games? Does it mean anything at all? How will Sony react? I have no doubt that some of the decisions that Nintendo has made here will impact, absolutely will impact PlayStation's decision making going forward. Lux, you're saying here people will complain and rightfully so, but I guarantee Mario Kart will outsell any Sony or Microsoft IP easily. Mario Kart 8 sold 75 million copies with 67 million of those on the Switch, and Sony will take note. Well, see, that's what's kind of interesting, right, about this situation is right now, I went through this with the PS5 Pro. Now, granted, there is a difference between an optional upgradable console and game prices, right? There is a distinct difference. However, I will say the reaction, generally speaking, is not too dissimilar, right? Where the big difference is it's easy for me to kind of write off the PS5 Pro by being like, it's optional. I mean, technically everything's optional. You know, nobody's putting a gun in your head saying you got to buy this console, you got to buy this game, so on and so forth. But I think you guys understand the difference here, where like genuinely the PS5 Pro is an optional piece of hardware in the middle of a generation that, for what you're looking to get, it's one of those things where I think most people could easily look at that and be like, I'm good. You know, what we're looking at here is not just a new generation of Nintendo console, but the games, I mean, yes, again, the games are technically optional, but if this is going to be the new standard, at some point it's not going to be optional. You know what I mean? So it creates, I think, a much more uh what's the word I'm looking for? A much more inflated conversation, much more broad conversation around the pricing of games, the pricing of these products going forward. And to get back to what you said, Lux, it's going to be really interesting to see if the situation that we're witnessing right now with Mario Kart World and Nintendo pricing is this going to be a situation where the internet is, I don't want to say overreacting, because I will be honest, I don't think what I'm seeing is an overreaction. I think it's an appropriate reaction because it is quite shocking. Like, it's just shocking to find out that if you want to buy a physical uh, Nintendo game, it's going to be $90. Um, for a lot of people, that's shocking. I don't think it's an overreaction, but the question is, will it pass? Will it end up? Will the conversation about the pricing of these games just end up fading into the background? And as the weeks and the months go by, it turns out that no, the Switch 2 is selling fine, and kind of like what you're saying here, Lux, Mario Kart World is selling briskly, no problems, it's doing great numbers. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, that's the big question here. I think it's easy to jump to the conclusion right now, kind of like people did with the PS5 Pro. Again, definitely not the same thing, but I did see people jumping to the conclusion that the PS5 Pro was going to be an absolute, like nobody's buying it. It's garbage, trash, whatever. It's going to completely flop, and that just wasn't the case. And this isn't the PS5 Pro. This is a whole new Nintendo console. This is a whole new Mario Kart. There is a real possibility that the market is going to react by making it clear that we can tolerate this. And if that happens, yes, it will become the new industry standard. But, we're gonna find out real soon. That's kind of the good thing about it is the Switch 2 is right around the corner. New Switch games are right around the corner. B. Flesher, a member for 19 months, says, MBG, I've been among the most hyped for the Switch 2, but holy crap, that price was a massive buzzkill, $80 for many 7-year-old games. And I want to point out what Lux says underneath. He says, price of games, isn't Donkey Kong still, $70? That's what's weird about this, right? Is like, I almost wonder if Nintendo's just trying to see if they can get away with it. Because, yeah, Donkey Kong is $70. So there's this kind of weird situation where it's like, hey guys, Mario Kart is going to be $90 for physical games. But here's Donkey Kong, and it's 70. And I feel like it creates this kind of confusion of like, so it's like on a case by case basis. What it might turn out to be is Nintendo's just going to kind of handpick games that they believe are worth $80. I mean, I've seen people clowning on Mario Kart World saying it's nowhere near worth $80, but you're, B. Flesher, you're talking about like 7-year-old games. You're talking about, the multi-platform titles that were shown off during the Direct yesterday that, games like FF7 and Cyberpunk and I think others that are even older. Like, there's no way those games are going to be $80. Like, that would be legitimate insanity, right? Or just the absurdity of that would be unbelievable. And it especially looks crazy when you, again, look at the fact that Donkey Kong's still 70. So I almost wonder if Nintendo is maybe prepared if the pushback is just simply too great over the coming weeks to say, actually, never mind, we're walking that back. I wonder if that's what Donkey Kong represents. Like we're still pricing games at 70, so we're still willing to do that. But I don't know. I don't understand. I mean, maybe that's the backup plan, right? Because surely Nintendo knew there was going to be pushback here. But yeah, for me, the bigger question, because I'm not excited about anything related to Nintendo, really. Even the new From Software game, I found out it's like a multiplayer game. I'm still interested in it, but definitely different than what I was expecting. However, I'm more interested in, I'll be honest, what does this mean for Sony? Like, I think it was Devil Shooter who left a comment on my video yesterday saying like Hiroki Totoki is licking his lips. The new CEO of Sony. And I'm like, oh, I hope that this isn't the beginning, of just like, yep, this is the slide we're going down now, right? Very quickly. Chris Brown with a super chat says, hot take, $80 for a game you'll play for years isn't much to ask. Been playing Mario Kart 8 for 8 years, not trying to defend, but it's overblown in my opinion. Well, the irony, yeah, there is, I think, a difference between defending a price increase versus kind of acknowledging the different realities surrounding the price points of games in 2025. There is logic, absolutely, to what you're saying, Chris. And what's ironic about it is that, like, if you look at the PlayStation Store right now, and I'm only referencing the PlayStation Store because that's where I play and that's where I look. When I look at the most pre-ordered digital games, they're never just the base version. That's the irony here, is that most people are already paying more than $70 for their games. Like, I checked the PlayStation Store, the number one most pre-ordered game right now is the premium $100 version of Forza Horizon 5. And if you see Death Stranding, which I think is still charting on there, it's the $80 version. Now, granted, you get the early access with that, but I'm not saying it's the same thing because it's not. The difference here is you still have the option. I guess my question is, why did Nintendo feel like they have to force it? To me, that's the part that's weird and the part that does deserve the pushback, where it's like, you could just have a different version of the game that's more expensive and people will buy that. Like, they will absolutely buy that in droves. Most people will probably buy that version. But by just kind of like forcing this change and making it a new standard, it's inviting, I think, an immense amount of backlash that frankly could have been mitigated by doing it that way, the way it's been done. And we have a couple of direct donations. I'll check them out in just a minute. Um, this is the new normal. Wake up, gamers. The world economy is in an upheaval. Yeah, I mean that's what's going to be really difficult to navigate during this conversation. Is you know Trump just announced the tariffs, reciprocal tariffs, and like I'm trying my best to hear all the different sides and the different angles. There's a lot of panic, which is understandable because it's a big deal, and the timing of these things. And I think you are right. I think you are right. I think that we are witnessing a major upheaval of the world economy, and there's no denying that every single facet of consumer products, from the essentials all the way to the non-essentials, is going to be impacted and is already being impacted. MRPD, you're saying insane gaslighting going on in the chat, trying to tell me $80 for a base game is okay. Well, see, this is where the argument always comes back down to the same thing, right? Like, there's no you don't have to argue with somebody or convince somebody that an $80 game is or is not worth it. What we need to do is take a step back and understand that the market is about to speak. We are part of that market. The best thing you could do right now is speak with your wallet. I mean, I know people say that all the time and maybe it's overused, but legitimately, considering how close the Switch 2 is, Mario Kart World is going to be a launch title. Speak with your wallet. You know, if you really feel that this is crossing the line and this is too much, do not give the company your money. You have to be able to say, yes, I would like this thing, but I am not willing to pay this price for this thing because it's simply too much. You have to take that stand. You also have to do so knowing that many people are not going to do that with you. So Nintendo is going to find out. And you better believe every single video game publisher is zoomed in right now on the Switch 2 launch and the announcement of these game prices going up. We thought it was going to be GTA 5. Turns out Nintendo beat them to the punch. We need to understand that people are going to, the market's going to speak. We are part of that market, and you can only speak for yourself. If I understand that if you're against the $80, you might want to try to convince people to hold off as well. Because if you convince enough people to hold off and not spend that $80 on these games, Nintendo would maybe be forced to reconsider. And that's fine. Just like, I don't think there's anything wrong with explaining your reasoning, but it's not worth arguing over because everybody's going to do what they want with their own money. Nintendo knows that. Nintendo's just hoping that more people end up buying it than not. But it is kind of crazy, dude. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I was just like trying to process it yesterday. Like, man, this really, they really just did it. No one has anything to say about the $20 upgraded packs for old gen games. Wait, MRPD, what are you talking about? What is that? Who put that there? I actually am not sure what you're talking about. I must have, I know for a fact I've missed some information. Oh God. All right. If you drop the super chat and I haven't read it yet, don't worry. I'm just running a little bit behind on the super chats and I'm going to read them. The upgraded version of Nintendo Switch to Switch 2 games is $20 for the upgrade. $20. Is that like per game? What? How did I miss this? Hold on. Bro, that's per game. Oh my God, dude. We are cooked with the PS6, aren't we? Dude, I think Hiroki Toki's sitting there licking his chops, bro. Oh man. How, bro, how are they going to charge $20? Like, all right, listen. The reason why that's surprising to me is not it's not that I didn't expect them to charge for the upgrades. What I didn't expect is them to charge more, basically double what we already kind of have with, I guess, PS4 to PS5, but on a piece of hardware that's underpowered. That's crazy, dude. Oh my god. Well, shit. Nintendo is they're just going in for the kill. I didn't even know that. All right. Beast mode, I see, man. Totoki's dancing right now. I don't know. I mean, he's watching, right? He's watching. Guys, look, I'm not going to tell you what to do with your money. I'm not going to tell you what to do with your money. But I am going to tell you, in all seriousness, with the Switch 2 coming out, and like Nintendo's the first one. Like Nintendo is, I guess, the canary in the coal mine, right? Like they're the ones that are going to try to do this. And I'm not telling you to support it, to not support it. I just simply want to remind you to speak with your wallet. It's very, very important that we speak with our wallet here because I don't know, man. I have this feeling that depending on what happens in the next couple of months when it comes to consumer spending on video games, specifically with Nintendo, it could very well end up molding the decision making that goes into, well, again, I'm thinking about PlayStation. I think Sony's going to be watching. I think Sony is going to be watching and waiting, seeing how this works out for Nintendo. And if it works out incredibly well for Nintendo, I think Sony's going to be like, well, we can do it too. If it doesn't work out well for Nintendo, I think there might be a chance that they might say, you know what though, maybe we shouldn't. But maybe it's not a possibility. Maybe it's not a possibility. Maybe I don't know. Maybe Nintendo has to do this. I don't know. I've seen a lot of people making arguments over those points. Like, there's no way Nintendo has to do this. This is pure greed. Michael Lynch, you're saying the best thing to come out of that showcase was all of the drama. Plenty of topics for you to use in your videos now. Rip Val. Bro, just a side note here. Val Kilmer's passing. In the middle of the day yesterday, all day yesterday, I saw Val Kilmer passed away trending. In the middle of the day, suddenly on Twitter, it was trending that it wasn't true, that it was like a hoax or whatever. And I was like, oh, so he didn't die. Oh. And then later in the day, it was like, no, he is dead. And I'm like, what the? Dude, I legitimately was like, what is going on? It was the weirdest thing I ever saw. So I'm assuming he actually did pass away. But for like a window of time there, for like multiple hours, it was trending that saying it wasn't true. But yeah, rest in peace, Val Kilmer. Lots of topics for the videos. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much of the Nintendo stuff I'm going to cover per se. I'll have to cover some of it, and I don't mind. But again, I feel like I'm kind of on the outside looking in. That's why you don't get news from Twitter. Amen. Yaron, you're saying Nintendo has no competition for years from Sony or Microsoft, so I don't blame them for increasing the price of games. Yeah, I mean the whole idea of the competitive aspect of this, we do have to wonder. We do have to wonder if we were over here thinking it was going to be Sony, but maybe I guess it was Nintendo, which I was. It's weird because I was expecting some things to potentially go wrong yesterday for Nintendo. This was not something I even remotely considered. I was kind of blindsided by it. Hold on one sec. Lux, you're saying Take-Two CEO had a point saying why should they charge for the same price for GTA 6 as other games when they feel it's going to offer a lot? It'll be dear. Uh, oof. Whiskey, you're asking what was the fallout? Uh, the big thing is Nintendo announcing seemingly most of their games, you would assume, where some of their games are going to be priced at $80 and physical games are going to be 90. The physical games being $90 is very concerning to me because we are looking at seemingly a reality where I could see something like that happening for PlayStation next. And oof, I have to say, man, like that might be my limit where it's like, Jesus, man, I can't imagine paying almost $100 per physical game that I want to like buy and play. That's crazy to me. I mean, it's tough. People are saying it's the tariffs, maybe for specifically the physical side. People are saying that the recent, like the tariffs that just went into effect, are the reason why Nintendo came out swinging with a $90 price point for physical games in the U.S. But that would have been very preemptive, I guess. Which I mean, it would make sense, but I mean, maybe listen, maybe they were like, "Hey, if we could just do this at the same time, you know, maybe people will just blame the tariffs. People will blame Trump, not us." But Nintendo's a very rich company. I mean, that's the thing that I know business is business, you know. I know business is business, but we do have to understand these companies are very rich. You know, they're very rich. The Furious, you're saying an economist said the increase is likely from Trump's tariffs. Not to get too political, but the new tariffs on Japan, plus with the weakening yen, made this. Well, I mean, yeah, at this point in time, I'm not convinced that it doesn't have anything to do with it. I think the question is how much does it have to do with it? Is it the whole reason? Is it partially the reason? Is it minimal? It's hard because yeah, it does get very political. But I mean, again, I was on Twitter and all I've been seeing for the past 24 hours are people fighting and arguing about the tariffs. They're good for the U.S. They're bad for the U.S. The economy's over. You know, the U.S. is cooked. This is going to be good in the long run. I mean, it's. I'll be honest. Like after seeing so many different arguments, it feels like nobody knows what they're talking about. You know, I don't feel confident enough to be able to make sense of it one way or the other. Shinobi tweeted about it. Should read it. I think I saw that yesterday. I might bring that up. Lux, you're saying MK8 is or Mario Kart 8. I don't know why I thought about Mortal Kombat instead of Mario Kart. Mortal Kart 8. MK8 is still the highest played game 10 years later. They know they'll get the money and sales. It'll be a 10-year plus supported game. Bring on the tariffs. Lux says bring on the tariffs, bro. Um, well, that's the thing, right? Like, are we betting against Mario Kart? Like, do we think people are not going to buy Mario Kart when they find out it's $80 digitally? I don't know. I mean, there's no denying that the data, you know me, I like to always refer to the data. And that's what you're doing right now, Lux. You're pointing out the data. You're pointing out that Mario Kart 8, huge success. I mean, unbelievable success. A game that's been played the whole time throughout the Switch's life cycle. The data tells you they're going to get away with this just fine. The data tells you that they might lose a few sales. I'm not. It could be a consequential amount. It could bring the sales down by maybe millions potentially. But if you're talking about a game that's selling, how many did you say it sold? Like 60 something million copies. I mean, I mean, I don't think you're going to see suddenly 35 to 40 million people decide actually I'm not going to buy this game. I guess what I'm trying to say is I could understand from Nintendo's perspective. You look at those numbers and you're like, yeah, we're fine. We're fine. Like this is gonna be just fine. But I don't know. We're gonna find out. Yeah, that's the thing. The Switch 2 bundle. I almost wonder if it's like, so you guys are gonna buy the Switch 2 bundle, right? Like, who would buy the console separate and then Mario Kart separately. I like who would do that, right? You buy the bundle. You're getting if you buy the bundle, you're getting Mario Kart World for $50. That's $30 less. 40 if you're, you know, foregoing the physical version. The scalpers. Oh, AAA gaming isn't for the poors anymore. Uh-oh. Well, apparently we're all going to be poor. Based off of the reactions I've been seeing on the internet, we better buckle up because apparently we're all going to be poor. I don't know. I try not to react too harshly to these things, or not harshly, but just I'm trying these days not to overreact to things because I feel like that's all the internet is anymore. It's overreaction after overreaction. Not to say that prices increasing doesn't warrant that overreaction, but it's just because I think no matter what, at the end of the day, no matter what, it is what it is, right? Like if it's like when people were freaking out about the price of the Pro, it's like it is what it is, man. Like don't buy it. I mean, honestly, like don't buy it. Like that's your only option. And maybe that is the best option, you know? I don't know. I see somebody mentioning Game Pass. Well, yeah, I mean, dude, I've been seeing people bringing that up too, where it's like Nintendo just made Game Pass look better, right? Duskblood is timed? Where did you hear that? Game Pass, no hardware needed. Dude, that's why I'm saying, like, if things are going in this direction and it's like there's no other option, like this is just the direction it's going to go in, PS Plus is going to become way more important to Sony. No doubt about that. I mean, PS Plus is already very, very important to Sony, but it'll become just that much more important down the road. All right, we have let's see here. It's beast mode. A member for 4 months says no OLED, underpowered when undocked, and the prices. Massive L when you consider Nintendo does not believe in price cuts. L prices on low budget games. Well, it's no offense to Nintendo fans, and I mean that. Like it's no offense, but it's just when it it was weird for me yesterday. Like I did feel, I mean, it was fine because I was watching it with Mrs. McG, but like just like paying very close attention to like when they're doing that big announcement for like party chat, I'm like, am I supposed to clap for this or like what? Like it just feels like one of the biggest reasons Nintendo does not appeal to me at all is because they have less than zero interest of keeping up. And I understand that they're in a unique position where they can do that successfully. So I'm not expecting them to keep up. But it's just the more I look at what Nintendo's doing, and especially with, this is why I basically gave them the time of day, right? Is because I'm like, okay, it's a new console, it's a new launch that only happens, once every 6, 7, 8, 9 years, whatever. So it's like, yeah, I'll pay attention. And by the end of it, I'm just like, well, I just don't. I'm good. I'm very much, if anything, seeing everything that Nintendo announced and everything that they put out there made me just that much more sure that yeah, I'm happy where I am. And that's not a slight at the platform or the games or even the price increases. I'm just saying, like, putting the pricing aside, it's just like, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I'm perfectly happy with the being on PlayStation. And I'll be honest, man, like I know it sounds bad because it sounds like I'm taking shots at Nintendo, but I'm telling you, I'm really not trying to take shots at Nintendo. It's just that it made me kind of relieved that, man, I'm glad Sony doesn't operate this way. Because I don't know, yeah, I'd be like, I got to go to Microsoft now again. And that's how I feel. That's just my honest to God feelings on Nintendo, where it's like I will eventually probably, like, down the line, I'll probably get a Switch 2. Well, I know I will eventually have one because I know Mrs. MBG is really going to want one. But I could see myself down the line, again, kind of engaging with the Switch 2 on like a really, just a really casual basis of like, oh, yeah, I'll play some Mario Kart with my wife, if a friend's over, whatever. Maybe some Super Smash Bros. Stuff like that. But I will never earnestly be involved with Nintendo. And I just accept that at this point. I will accept that. Mrs. MBG will drain my bank account with Nintendo games. Even she was shocked after that. Because, yeah, like I said, when we ended the stream yesterday, we didn't know. And I told her, I was like, check this out. I'm like, look at the news that's coming out. She's like, what? She's like, really? She's like, that's crazy. And I'm like, yeah, yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know. Lux, you're saying, oh, hold on, I lost you. Hold on. Where am I at? One retailer here opened, pre-orders sold out. See, that's what I mean, Lux. Like, dude, I just think that we're gonna see a separation, man. You know, I think that people are going to be priced out, but the amount of people that are going to be priced out is not going to be consequential enough. And I don't think that people are going to stand on a moral high ground, right? On principle. I don't not a moral high ground, on principle. I don't think enough people are going to stand on principle. I think that the initial reaction is F you from a lot of people. I think as time goes on, and if it's true that the economic circumstances are going to change in the way that people expect it to, which is everything's going up. Literally everything's going up, at least in the US. Can't really speak in other territories. If that's true, then people might just kind of start to sink into it and be like, well, okay, yeah, it is what it is. And then maybe eventually, maybe they save up for a Switch 2. Maybe they save up for some of these games. I don't know. What are you saying, MBG? That gamers are degenerates without principles? Actually, no. I think I'm actually talking more about the casual market. Like, I guess what I'm saying is I don't think the principle matters as much. One of the things we do have to consider is that the Switch 2 is also going to be a very family-friendly console, and it's going to be more social than ever before. I think these are factors that, are going to, you know, basically pad out the situation for Nintendo where it's like they'll weather the storm, so to speak, I think. And I think the proof will be in the data. Like, listen, if it turns out that, like, bro, the Switch 2 is off to an awful start sales wise, and their games are off to a terrible start sales wise, I would be like, whoa, okay, all right, well, Nintendo might be in trouble. But I'm more realistically anticipating that it's gonna be like, yep, it's off to a great start. Pre-order selling out, people are buying it, games are off to a solid sales start. Everything's looking good. That's what I'm anticipating. And I think that it's just going to make it so that, well, clearly this isn't going to change. So now we just have to decide, like, is the Switch 2 for you or not? You know? Boss, you can't start eating my microphone, dude. Iasa, your super chat came in, but there was nothing written. So appreciate the donation though. James, you're saying general consensus is that the price is too much. So, well, that's what I mean, look, I do think that initially the Switch 2 will do well just because it is new hardware. I think initially the games might even sell well. But I think it's kind of going into like 2026 and beyond that I think we're really going to see. Boss, you can't chew my microphone. That's when we're really going to see, I think, if the higher price points have had some kind of tangible. Bro, I just put you over there. No, boss. Yeah, guys, consider dropping some membership gifts if you are able to, because we're trying to hit 20 members, 25 members. I mean, if we hit 25, we can give boss a couple treats, calm him down. Calm yourself, boy. And again, if you drop the super chat and I haven't read it yet, just stay patient. Don't do it. Don't do it, boss. Don't do it. Stay patient. I'm running a little bit behind on the super chats. Radic, you're saying member for 20 months, saying Nintendo fans don't bathe. They already saved money on this piece of shit Switch 2. Oh my god, Radic, bro, tell me how you really feel about the Switch 2 and Nintendo fans. Brutal. I think that's too aggressive, Radic. That's too aggressive. We can't be that aggressive. Lux, you're saying if PlayStation puts prices up, will you stop buying? Doubt. I'll tell you what though, Lux. If Sony increases their prices, like if Sony just basically followed what Nintendo did, I mean, look, I can't sit here and lie and say, I'm going to stand on my principle. Like, bro, I cover PlayStation on my channel for a living. Like, yeah, I'm going to get the games, right? Like that. There's just no way around that. However, what I can say is that if I wasn't doing this and I was still playing on, I'm heavily invested in PlayStation, playing PlayStation, what it would do in all seriousness, I'm going to hesitate a lot more. I'm going to be like, I'm going to have to really make damn sure that this game is something that I need to play right now. Right? Like, or can I just wait it out? Because you wait it out, games do go on sale. It'll make me hesitate quite a bit. But I'm not going to, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that like if this were to like, I mean, it's tough because it's like you mentioned GTA 6. That's not even a Sony game. Like, dude, GTA 6 comes out at $80 digital, $90 physical. Like, I'm buying it no matter what. Like, I will make sure of that. But I guess what I mean to say is like I definitely could not justify doing that for every game I want to play. No chance. There's no chance. Dude, membership prices are going up, guys. Just damn tariffs. No, I'm just kidding. Membership prices aren't going up. Unless YouTube makes that decision, which I don't think they could do that. I mean, maybe B-Flesher. Maybe. You are right about that, but I can't deny that, specifically with new PlayStation games, I can't pretend that they're not, like, when those games drop, like, that's the conversation. Boss, bro. Okay, hold on, guys. Get down. You can't be up here like this. He's trying to fight me, dude. James, you're saying it's because of Trump, bro. Lux, you're asking, do I have a link for the Switch 2 games being 90? I saw it reported by Insider Gaming. That's where I first found out about it. I'm assuming there's like a press release, an official press release. I told you, MVG, the correct price of the Pro, expect big increases to $100 games and $1,000 consoles. All these companies are pivoting to extract more from current customers, PlayStation included. Well, if what we're seeing from Nintendo is anything to go by, yeah, you might be right. All right. Boss, I swear. Bro, I'm going to have to kick you out. You need to stop. Scuba tank filled with farts. says Nintendo releasing a region lock Switch 2 only in Japan for $330 is proof enough that we're getting blasted by the tariffs. Is Japan the only? I did see that. And Perfect Image, yeah, I'm sorry about that. I'll make sure to get to the direct donations as well. But I meant to ask, like, is that just for Japan and Japan only? Or is the price of the Switch 2 lower in many other regions? I didn't look into that. But yeah, the Switch 2 is going to be way, way more affordable in Japan for Japanese buyers. It's Japan only. Okay. Well, that I feel like that's a little bit different, you know? I don't know. Again, I don't know that points to it being 100% the tariffs, because if that were the case, I mean, you know, I don't know. I did see people really wishing that they could speak Japanese fluently, though, because yeah, it almost seems like the Switch 2 is going to be kind of a steal in Japan. Luck says Switch 2 price in Japan equals $350. Zero Connection, member for 7 months, says, "Hi MBG, haven't watched your channel in a while. What are your thoughts on Death Stranding 2? I think it looks amazing. Death Stranding 2 is one of my most anticipated games. I thought the last trailer that they showed was really, really good. Kojima's doing it again, so I'm stoked for it. It's going to be a day one. Now that's a day one buy for me, and I'm very excited. Yaron, you're saying before Trump and tariffs, N64 games were about 110 to 120 US dollars without inflation. During Biden, we got the PS5 Pro, which is 700 without a stand and a drive. Uh-oh. Something tells me there's a little bit more to the conversation there, Aaron. I love how this conversation is turning into it's Trump and Trump supporters. No way. Wabu Dude with 2 super chats. Thank you, Wabu Dude. I'll read part 1 and part 2. He says, after Nintendo's announcement yesterday, as someone who prefers physical games, I really feel like my hobby is becoming too expensive. If/when all other publishers raise their prices, I won't be buying games on day one anymore. Instead, I'll wait for deals at places like GameStop around Black Friday. On the bright side, it's a good time to dig into the backlog. Well, there you go. See, I feel like your response here, Wabu Dude, is a very reasonable and also mature one, where it's not laden with, like screeching, frankly, at a company that's like, we're going to make our profit and do our business. I think you're doing the best thing you can do, which is just kind of accepting that maybe you are priced out, right? Where it's like, this has just gotten too expensive and it's gotten unsustainable. And it's pretty much become more unenjoyable because of that, where every decision when it comes to buying a new game is like, how painful is this going to be? And I think you're just coming to I think you're coming to a good compromise here. It sucks that it has to come to this, right? But you're right, dude. Like there's more games than ever to play. Everybody to an extent has some kind of backlog, or at least games that they maybe passed on that they might, they could go back and check out. Um, the hope is that maybe it just doesn't have to come to that all around, right? Saying Wabu Dude makes some really good points. Yeah, he's specifically talking about from the physical side as well. I'm really worried about that. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, I mean, this is happening very quickly, where it feels like physical games are already being kind of pushed out or just really diminished. But now it seems like the conversion to digital is going to be like just really sped up due to, at least starting with Nintendo being like, you want a physical game, it's going to be $90. And I do expect in that regard, every company is going to follow suit. I do think that every company is going to be like, listen, if you want to have a physical version of this game, you're going to have to pay a premium now. And some people will, but I mean, just speaking for me, it's like, I don't know, man. Switch 2 games, physical games are just keys for downloads. I saw that too, and people were losing their minds about that, which is understandable. We're like, yeah, I don't think it's going to be all games, but some Switch games that you buy physically for $90 apparently are they're not going to be like the game isn't going to be on the cartridge or whatever. And I'm like, I don't know, dude. Like that's nuts. That's kind of nuts. All right, I'm almost caught up. Let me go read the direct donations real quick, and then I'll finish reading the rest of these super chats. Appreciate you guys being patient with me. We have let's see here. Perfect Image says it sucks that no one cares about low income families that used to buy games to keep their kids out of trouble when the price of games goes. You say when the price of games go question mark when it question mark. I don't know how to respond to the second part of what you said, Perfect Image, but yeah, I mean, this is where again, like we talk about subscription services, right? It seems like subscription services are going to maybe in the next 3 to 4 years, maybe 5 years. It depends on, it could be much more rapid than that, actually. These subscription services like PlayStation Plus and Game Pass, this could be their time to rise, dude. Um, if it's true that hardware is just going to become that much more expensive, if it's true that being a really invested gamer is going to become that much more expensive, but you have to question the accessibility to games. Like, how, what's the easiest way to access a large library of games? That's where these subscription services could begin to thrive. And it's an interesting prospect because there is a major distinct difference between PlayStation Plus and Game Pass. And we already know what that is. It's day one new releases, right? That Microsoft puts in Game Pass. Sony doesn't do that. Sony puts older games. So, I've always said that Sony at any moment could make the pivot if they had to. I don't think they want to. I think it would hurt them ultimately. But if they were backed into a corner, like let's say the price of the PS6 can only be $800. Let's say the price of PlayStation games does go up to 80, 90, and $100. At that point, if nobody's buying the PS6 and game sales are tanking, Sony might feel pressured. Well, we got to funnel people into PlayStation Plus. I mean, it would be you know, quite the reversal, where it's like this whole time, that's exactly what we were saying. No, that's not what they're going to do. But like, then, I mean, you look at what's happening with the economy, you look at how people are reacting to the new announcement of Trump's tariffs, and it seems like nobody really knows what's going to happen over the next 3 to 4 years. And people, I think, companies, I would say at this point, are trying to just prepare themselves. Tariffs are temporary, inflation's forever. I'm not trying to be like a doomer or anything, dude, but like, I'm just convinced that the hole's too deep, you know? Like, I think that everybody thinks that this'll work and that'll work and here's the solution. But I think the reality is like, nothing's going to work because the whole system, we've reached a point where it's like, it's being held together. Everything seems like it's being held together by a thread. It's like hanging by a thread. And it's like, well, we got to pull it back from the brink before that last thread goes. It's like, dude, it's too late. Like, you're talking about a complete reset. And I mean, I think most people are not going to be on board with that. Like, the reason why we're in this problem or we're in this conundrum is because everybody keeps passing the buck. They keep passing the buck. They keep passing it on to somebody else. And then when somebody's finally like, we got to do something now. It's like, dude, everything's too twisted, too interconnected. The knots, you can't undo this knot. You just got to start over. All great empires fell eventually. I mean, I'm not trying to be like that doomer ish, But I don't know, man. I don't know that there's any really true viable solution. I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but like one of the only things that could conceivably work is if leaders of nations could maybe just start to be like, you know what? Oh, there's sirens outside, bro. Uh-oh. Oh, we're in trouble now, boys. Is if leaders of nations just basically decided, like maybe we could just collectively start over. If that were to happen and everybody was on the same page, we could kind of maybe go somewhere with that. But that's not going to happen. That's a completely unfeasible, unrealistic thing. So everybody's just waiting for somebody else to fall so they can take their place. Nothing new there. They're coming for me, bro. Yaren says, or hold on, Lux says, Sony being a Japanese company, I expect price rises. Well, I'll be honest, Lux. I anticipate that Sony is going to follow suit. I'm not going to sit here and lie to myself and try to like convince myself that no, Sony won't do that. Sony's not going to follow Nintendo. Like Sony's not going to. No, I think Sony is going to be all over it. I just think they have to wait till next gen. Or they might have no choice but to do it sooner. If, well, I don't want to say no choice. They do have a choice, but they might just decide to do it sooner. We need to just carry the same energy when Sony Corp bones us too. It's coming, bro. But I don't know, man. Like it's a tough thing because everybody sees value differently, or everybody's perception of value is different. Where there are people, and I know this because I've encountered them, and I'm not judging them. It's just it is what it is. There are people that are like, yeah, I'll pay $80 for Mario Kart World. Yeah, I'm gonna love that game. I'm gonna play that game for years to come. More than worth it. And it's hard for like me to be like, no, you're wrong. That's bad, because it's like, well, it's your money, first of all. Second of all, it's not my place to determine whether or not that game is worth $80 to you. I can only determine that for myself. And so, I'm not trying to like browbeat people. It's just a matter of like, for example, you look at Death Stranding 2, the best selling version right now of Death Stranding 2, from what I gather, is the $80 version. And granted, they're giving you early access to it by 2 days, but it's just like, I'm pretty sure if that game was $80, I don't know how many people would suddenly be like, never mind. It kind of harkens back to what Josh said at the beginning of this stream, where he said that if you were willing to pay $60 for a game, you're probably willing to pay 70. And if you're willing to pay 70, you're probably willing to pay 80. And, there is some kind of upper limit. The question is, have we reached it? Donkey Kong on Best Buy is $70 physical, Luna. See, this is what's weird to me. This is what's confusing me, where it's like, is this a test? Because why? Why is one game 80 digital, 90 physical, and the other is just 70 across the board? Why? You're saying pre-damage controlling Sony ain't no way? Moses, there's no damage control. Like, I'll tell you this right now. If Sony announced tomorrow the price of games go up, there's nothing to damage control. That's bad. That's just objectively bad for every consumer. What I'm not going to do is turn to you or anybody else and say, again, it's like browbeat you. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to tell you that you can be as mad as you want. There are still going to be people that buy those games. And the only thing you really need to worry about is how many people are buying those games. You know? That's the real concern, because if enough people buy those games at those higher price points, then that's just going to, then things are just going to keep moving. I think there's this kind of like, there is this, again, there's this kind of moral grandstanding, this hope, maybe, that like, if every gamer, right, gamer, whatever that is, whatever that means, just kind of like, if we all banded together and just collectively put our feet down and say, no more, no more, that, you know, the entire industry would change for the better. And it's like, yeah, that's the idea that people think that's a possibility is comical to me, because it's like, maybe, I don't know if they're living in the real world, like that's never going to happen under any circumstances whatsoever. That's not going to happen. And it doesn't mean that people shouldn't call things out. You should, but it's just, you have to be able to understand what they're leveraging. That's the whole point, is seeing the bigger picture, where it's like saying, why so passive? Am I coming off as passive? I'm not trying to be passive. I'm trying to explain that, like, there's only one way you can fight a company. And that is, you either give them your money or you withhold their money. I just don't feel comfortable telling people what to do with their money. That's all it comes down to. I can only tell you what I'm going to do with my money, potentially. I can tell you what other people are saying that they're going to do with their money. I can read you the data. I can give you the data saying this is what people are seemingly doing with their money. But I don't feel comfortable in telling somebody what they should or shouldn't do with their money, because I just don't feel like that's my place. I think, I'm going to be honest with you right now. I don't know why I say it like that. I hate saying that, because I'm going to be blunt right now. Millions of people on the internet right now, and this is just the reality. This is what people don't want to talk about. This is what people don't want to acknowledge, because it doesn't drive clicks. It doesn't get people angry and upset. Millions of people on the internet right now are bitching and complaining about Nintendo, the Nintendo Switch 2, and their games. At least a third of those people or more are going to end up buying their products. We've been down this road over and over and over and over again. We've been through this, and it's just like, I don't know when people are going to wake up and realize that the reason why you're seeing this happen is because they know it will work. At the end of the day, they know that there's going to be somebody who throws a fit, flips the table, gives them the finger, says, I'm not having any part of this. Give it a year, they'll be coming back. They're going to get your money. And if you're not that person and you do actually walk away, chances are Nintendo's still going to do just fine without you. That's just the reality, man. Like, there are options out there. There may not be options to play Mario Kart, but there are many other gaming options, And so it's just a matter of, like, you have to decide what's going to bring you the most satisfaction or joy in gaming. And that's up to you to determine, right? Like, what the price is that you put on that. That's why I talked about Wabu Dude's super chat, where he was saying, like, you know what? I feel like this is the price. This is the limit. So I'm going to, like, maybe take a step back. I'm like, yeah, that's the way to do it. I mean, when it comes to exploitation of human emotion, like fear of missing out, yeah, that's going to continue as well. I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying it is what it is. It's like, does anybody here actually think that the trend of giving gamers early access to games by 2, 3, 4, 5 days through premium versions. Does anybody here think that's going to stop? It's not. And there might be somebody that says, well, if everybody stopped paying for it, it would. And it's like, why are you even saying that? If everybody stopped fighting each other in the world, there'd be world peace too. You think that's going to happen? We just need to be, I think, a little bit more realistic about the way things are, the way people are, what people are going to do, and how these things are likely going to go down. You know? It's just like I people always talk to me about Xbox, right? Like the way I talked about Xbox. And it's like, bro, listen, 5 years ago when we were talking about Game Pass, I can tell you, like I can sit here and tell you that I overreacted to Game Pass. Like dramatically. You know? I like dramatically. Like I made it seem like Game Pass was gonna be the harbinger of doom, bro. That's gonna take out gaming, it's gonna take out game developers, it's gonna ruin everything, it's gonna be a complete upheaval, and it's gonna flip the entire industry on its head in a bad way. I was totally wrong. You know, I was completely wrong, and it did nothing, neither good nor it was. I want to say it was like did nothing at all. I just mean like it's just an option now. It took out. He's saying it took out Xbox. I don't believe that, Devil Shooter. If you were to ask me what I think took out Xbox, I think Xbox took themselves out when with the announcement of the Xbox One. I think that was the day that was the beginning of the end, and I think Game Pass just helped get them there quicker. But with the console anyway. But I'm just trying to say that like I've been down this road so many times of the hyperbolic overreaction to what's happening and like 99% of the time, and I'm not kidding when I say this, 99% of the time, I would argue that the Xbox One reveal is actually the 1%. That's like the 1%. The Wii U, I guess it would be larger than 1%. Let's say 10%. 90% of the times it's overreaction, 10% of the times it's real. Xbox One, 10%. Wii U, 10%. First year or two of the PS3, 10%. Outside of that, no, again, the rest is just people overreact and then the market speaks and the companies look at the data and they're like, oh, okay. So they were just crying, but they still gave us their money. And some people weren't. Some people were totally fine with it from the get-go. It's like it just turns out that the headlines and the rage bait and the clicks that people were vying for did not translate to your product is now going to fail because people don't want it. They're two separate things. I think what we are going to see, and here's my prediction, and I'll read the rest of these super chats. What I think we're going to see is more of a clear separation. I think you're going to have groups of people that are either they're the people that are going to stand on principle and say, I'm not supporting these companies. I'm not supporting the greed. I want those products, but they're too expensive. They're pricing me out, and I think it's unfair and it's not right. And I think those people will continue to kind of gather together on certain places on the internet. And, that's what they'll do. They'll basically form a group of people that will continue to kind of, I guess you could say, just go off over and over again about stuff like this. The irony of that is they'll be doing so on the internet, so they're anonymous, so you don't actually know what they're doing with their money or what products they have. But then like everybody else is just going to be buying the products, engaging with the products and talking about the products, you know? And I think that all we're going to really see as the prices go up is a greater separation, a clear separation of that. And people are just going to decide what side of the fence they want to be on. Do you want to be on the side of the fence that says F this? Or do you want to be on the side of the fence that says, oh, all right, I still want these things, so I'm just going to buy them and enjoy them if I can afford them. Right. That's going to be a choice that everybody has to make. And that, again, I feel like I just recently went through this with the PS5 Pro, where it's like, it was just fascinating to me to witness like so many people who really like, they're like, I would have been interested in buying the PS5 Pro if it wasn't this expensive. And it's like, well, I get that, but it is that expensive. So, like, so now we have to complain to the people who can afford it and who do want to buy it. Like, that's the right answer. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't understand why so many people are willing to just waste so much time and energy, like, being angry at a thing that they really ultimately can't control. I think that's all it comes down to. It's like, you can't control the decision behind Nintendo's pricing of the Switch 2 in their games. You can try to start some kind of uprising, I guess, and be like, "No, I will. We'll boycott it." But it's just like, come on, dude. Like, read the room. Like, that's not going to happen. It's not extreme enough. What Nintendo did is not, believe it or not, it's not extreme enough. And that's not me defending Nintendo. That's just me being the adult and the realist in the room telling you that, like, you think like, do you think people are going to en masse just leave Nintendo because Mario Kart's $80? They're not. But that's why I'm saying you have to just do what's right for you. Just like I told people with the PS5 Pro, you got to do what's right for you. If you feel like that is too much, then just hold on to your money. Hold on to your money. Just take it. No. See, that's the beauty. You don't have to take anything. You don't have to take anything. See, people mistake, if you're not angry, you're just taking it. No. Chances are, if you're not angry, you're evaluating the situation with a level head. If you're evaluating the situation with a level head, then how can I hurt this company? Or, you know what? Let's be honest. People don't really think that way. People who are thinking level headed think, is that really worth $80? And anybody who looks at Mario Kart and says, nah, they walk away and they go somewhere else and they spend their money on something that they do feel is worth that. Or they just save their money. That's it. That's it, man. Like, people, I think, they want to turn this into something that it's just not going to be. And I do not understand. I guess I do understand that. I tried to do that with Xbox for a long time. And eventually I just realized that, bro, I'm just yelling at the clouds at this point. Microsoft's going to do what they're going to do. Their fans are going to support what they're going to support. And Microsoft's not going to turn to me and be like, you know what, MBG, you really want us to do this? We'll do this. We'll change because you asked us to. Like, it doesn't work like that. And I've accepted that, And so I just, like, moved on. I mean, we still talk about Xbox, of course, but I think you understand what I'm saying. Bigger picture. All right, let me catch up with these super chats. Yaron, you're saying GameStop may stop selling physical games to buy crypto. GameStop is closing a significant number of stores and will invest heavily in Bitcoin. CNN Business, the end is near. I'll be honest, man. I'm surprised GameStop's still around. I feel like I've been hearing about them going out of business or closing stores for literally like over a decade now. That's crazy. They may stop selling physical games. I mean, that's the crazy thing about that is, like, you're called GameStop. GameStop is a Bitcoin company now. That is wow. Things are really weird these days. GameStop is a Bitcoin company now. Lux, you're saying Nintendo is the only company that can make past tech and still outsell newer gen consoles. They don't give an F, and it works. I mean, that's the thing, man. What you're saying is true. objectively. And there are people who don't want to hear that. Like there are people who want to fight that. And I get it, man. I don't know if this is just because I'm getting like a little bit older now, but it's just like, yeah, uh I accept that because it is the reality doesn't mean I'm on board with it. I don't To me it doesn't make much sense, and I can kind of like dig deeper into it and start to make some sense of it, but I'm not a Nintendo player. I'm not a Nintendo fan. The Switch has not even once been appealing to me for the entire time it's been out. And yeah, I do look at it as like there's no way I'm going to like sit down and choose to play games on a Switch over a PlayStation. Maybe if I was playing some exclusives that they have that I'm like, okay, yeah, this is good because it's exclusive. But outside of that, again, like it's just not going to happen. And that's just for me. But I'm not going to be upset with Nintendo and be like this damn company and blah. Like it's like they're not doing what I want them to do. Like, dude, it is what it is. Like the day may come where Sony gets away from me, dude. I hope not. But the day may come where like Sony's not doing anything I want them to do anymore. And if that happens, I'm gonna have to just be like, well, I guess I could sit here for as long as I can complaining about it. And who knows, maybe because I have a channel based on PlayStation, I can do that indefinitely. But the idea is like eventually it's just like, dude, this is where they are now. This is what they're doing. And if you're not on board with it, like the only thing left to do is to just continue to complain about it and watch nothing change. You got to know when to walk away, is all I'm trying to say. And I'm not saying people need to walk away from Nintendo right now when it comes to their complaining. You shouldn't. Now is the time to complain. To be clear, like I may fast track myself to just acceptance, but now is the time to complain. And that's what we're seeing. But you just got to know what action to take. What's the appropriate action? And I think for most people, the appropriate action is it's probably time to just walk away. You know, just move on. Move the goalpost, MBG. But if Sony games were $8, you would just pay it. Well, hold on, Dark Cloud. What do you mean move the goalpost though? I need you to elaborate on that because I don't know. In this case, I'm not sure what the goalpost represents. Yeah, bro, gaming survivor, you nailed it. 5 stages of grief. MBG skips to acceptance. I get stuck on anger. That's the final step, right? Acceptance. Hold on. There might be something to this. The 5 stages of grief in order. Acceptance is the final. Oh my god, bro, you're right. Holy shit. Gaming survivor, you just hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what's happening. I just burned through all of the other stages. Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. I feel all those things in an instant, and then I'm just like, okay. I accept, and then I move on. Oh, damn, bro. Everyone is screaming at the treehouse or in their treehouse live to drop the price. Well, I mean, what do we think? Do we think that Nintendo's going to fold? Do we think they're going to fold? Do you think when Nintendo sees how many people are screaming in their chat to drop the price, they're going to fold? MBG the Pro put you in a permanent state of acceptance. Maybe. I think it's just because of my willingness to walk away. You know what I mean? I almost got caught up. Well, I did get caught up briefly yesterday in like the consternation towards Nintendo and the Switch. But it was kind of weird because I'm like, wait a second. I don't think I even want anything to do with this. You know what I mean? Like that's true. Okay, you're saying you didn't just burn through them. They've been going on in this channel for years. That's another interesting way to look at it. Yeah. If you kind of look at where my channel started and where we are now, we went through the whole grieving process, man. But that's what was interesting um, about yesterday with my feelings towards the price increases. It's like for a moment, I kind of felt like outraged and angry. But then I was just like, well, I don't even think I really care enough. And I just realized, well, like I legitimately had this moment where I'm like, well, I guess I'm just gonna go play on my PlayStation. Like I'm not kidding. Like that's like legitimately the conclusion I came to after like an hour or an hour and a half of like kind of reading everything online and being like, well, whatever, bro. And then I went back to playing, my PlayStation yesterday. And the only lingering thought was like, I wonder if Sony will do this next. And we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But they probably will though, realistically. Let's see here. We have Mark Dracon says a good marketing point for Sony is if they keep the £70 price. Imagine another Sean Layden-esque moment, and our game prices are not increasing. That's an interesting view of that. The only reason I don't think that would happen, Mark, is because I think that there is truth to a major transition that's happening more broadly speaking, where I think people do kind of forget that Sony wanted to do the same things that Microsoft was doing um, when the Xbox One was revealed. I think people do forget that. I remember distinctly, like Sony was going to do the whole DRM thing. They were going to have the camera. They were going to do the same thing because it worked more so in Sony's favor, just like it worked more so in Microsoft's favor. But because Microsoft was the first one to go out there and take the bullet, you know, and Sony saw that, they were like, no, 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 no. Like, scratch that. Like, physical games, share games, change the marketing beats. And that was smart. That was smart. Sony didn't have to do that. Sony could have, in that moment, said, all right, well, if we do it too, then, you know, everybody will just have to accept it. And I think that what we're witnessing right now is that. I spoke a little bit ago about how in order for something to be like reversed, right? In order for something to be truly devastating to a brand and to a company, I mean, it has to be extreme. And we look at something like the Xbox One reveal, and that was extreme. That was like 4, 5, 6 extreme things all at one time dumped on everybody to where everybody collectively was just like, no, right? What we're seeing now is one or two things, I would say, maybe three. It depends on who you ask, but a couple of things dumped on people that you notice people are like, it seems from what I can tell, and maybe I'm out of touch. I could be out of touch, but it seems to me like a lot of people are like, whatever, dude, that's fine. And I think those are the people, like Lux told me that pre-orders opened up in one of their stores where he is and immediately sold out. And I'm like, I feel like that's representative of like, yeah, dude, the people, there's a lot of people who are totally fine with this and they're out there pre-ordering and they're getting ready to play and buy and play. And I feel like, I don't know, man, that's where you make a good point, Mark, in that this could be a really prime opportunity for Sony to get aggressive towards Nintendo. Suddenly start talking about how you're not charging $80 for your games. You're not charging $90 for your physical games. You know, start to maybe talk about how, hey, you're charging less money for your upgrades or whatever. Like Sony could start to flex this stuff, but it is more likely at this point in time that Sony will follow that because the drop the price spam is still going. That's funny. It's going to happen the whole time. That's less likely to happen though, because I feel like at this point in time, um, the market has spoken. I do. I think that the market has made it clear that they are, if it's not extreme, and for most people, $10 is not make or break. Someone might say, well, it's $20. So, well, $20 over how many years? You know what I mean? Over the course of a decade, longer than a decade. So if it's not extreme and it's not overnight, but it's kind of just a slow burn, it's like $10 here, another 10 years goes by, another $10 here. People are more inclined to just kind of naturally flow with that. The $90 physical game thing is what really gets me, where it's like, here's what I can tell you. That $90 physical game thing, if this was like 8 years ago, that would be what undoes this. Because the only reason that's not getting more pushback is because most people have already went to digital. Most people are already buying digital. So I think that's another reason why Nintendo, and again, that's the market speaking. The market told Nintendo and Sony and Microsoft that we want digital. The majority of the market said that. And so when you see the announcement of, yeah, okay, well, physical games are going to be $90, and you see some outrage, but generally speaking, it seems like most people are, I want to say not most people, but there's likely, it's likely that the majority of people are not even paying attention to that because they're like, I don't buy physical games anyway. That to me is what's interesting, because you can see how these companies are kind of beginning to, they're reacting to the market. And you could make the argument that, like, well, this is why we tried to tell people you got to keep buying physical games, and now look at where we are. But it's like, you could yell that, you could shake your fist at it, but if millions upon millions upon millions of people over the course of years just decide, no, I'm just going to buy digital, and that's what wins out, and we get to a point where, like, yeah, the overwhelming majority of people are buying digital, then this is how they know, where, like, look, bro, we don't have the leverage. We don't have the power anymore. You know? That's I think that's why when you look back at the Xbox One, they weren't going all digital, but they were, putting an intense amount of DRM, and they were, correct me if I'm wrong, Microsoft didn't announce they were planning on going all digital with the Xbox One, right? I don't think they made that announcement, but they basically were saying that you can't share games, like your games are locked to that console, and you can share a digital game with up to, like, what was it? Did they say like 10 people or something? And it's like, that's one of the things Nintendo just did yesterday. Where, like, you could share your digital games with some family members or other Switches or whatnot. And it really does just seem like a lot of these things, it's like, yeah, they were always going to come to pass. You know what I mean? Like, they were always going to happen. But it's just a matter of timing. Like, are people ready for that now? Back in 2012 and 2013, they were not, because there were still apparently that many people still buying physical games, still sharing physical games. It was something that Microsoft tried to push, and the timing of it was just all wrong. Meanwhile, you look now, and it's like, yeah, I see so many people. They're like, I wouldn't care if physical went away tomorrow. I see more and more people being like, yeah, I'm going digital only, or I've been digital only, and that number is just increasing. And I'm not. Gaming Survivor says resist. I'm just simply saying that you got to know where you stand. That's all. Like you got to know you got to know your place in a sense. And I don't mean that in like a condescending way. I just mean literally like if you're somebody still advocating for physical games in 2025, 2026, 2027, you got to know that like you're in the minority and you're going to probably have to pay for that. Marathon teaser? Huh. The game prices are going up for all platforms. Nintendo was the safest way to announce it. PlayStation and Microsoft have already decided they're awaiting their rollout and are awaiting their rollout. I see it that way too. I do. I see it that way. Yeah. Just shut up and accept the prices. If they charge 150 US dollars, it's okay. No, Kane, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying shut. No, I'm not telling people to shut up. I think people should, people should use their voice. I don't know, man. I guess I'm just that guy that when I see the person screaming, I'm just like, I don't like, do you think this is a battle? You know how they say you got to pick and choose your battles? I'm just basically saying right now that I don't think this is a battle worth fighting because you're not going to win it. No, I didn't see the marathon teaser yet. I'm gonna have to check that out. Again, that's not me saying that you shouldn't. Like, if you really feel like you got to fight this battle, fight the good fight, man. I'm just saying you're not going to win. That's not me saying I hope the corporations win. I'm just saying they already won. And the reason they already won is because the wheels are already in motion. They've been in motion and it's not stopping. You know? It's not like the only way it stops is if the entire market crashes. And that's not going to happen because the market is too big for a crash like that to occur. MRPD is like, no, bro. So look, I'm just simply trying to put out here that if you feel as though games are worth $70, continue to buy games for $70. If when the announcement occurs that games are going up, and this will be a universal thing, all right, it's not just going to be Sony, it's not just going to be Microsoft, it's going to be all publishers that make AAA games. When they decide that they're going to start charging $80, just think about it now. Are the like will you be willing to pay $80 for new AAA video games? And if the answer is no, then start thinking about different ways to engage with games. And the simplest thing to do, in my opinion, would be just be patient. Be patient. If you don't give in to the FOMO and you're willing to wait, you will get that game at a cheaper price down the line. That's the answer. You want to not hurt a company, but you want to send that message. Like maybe you're not the person that can just walk away. And I think this is a more appropriate thing to say right now because I know a lot of people like if game prices on PlayStation did go up, which they will, they're going to go up to 80 at some point. When they do that, I know there's going to be a lot of people that don't want to walk away. They're too invested. They have a library on PlayStation. They still like playing on PlayStation, but that price is just like, what the hell? The solution is be the patient gamer. Better get down, boss. Be the patient gamer because eventually those games will go down in price. They will go on sale. Unless that's another change that occurs. That's the one thing about Nintendo games that I feel like you are kind of extra screwed on where it's like, you can't say that about Nintendo games. If Mario Kart's going to be $80, it's staying $80 forever. And that's a whole nother problem at that point. But for now, that's not what happens on PlayStation. On PlayStation, if you wait, games do go down in price. Load up the Nintendo of America chat right now. Hold on. Let me go check. And guys, I'm sitting on some more super chats. I'm going to read them in just a moment. I want to go check this first. Let's see. Drop the price. Drop the price. Yo, should I just type in the chat, drop the price? That's pretty funny, man. This is why hey, man, this is why I'm saying I'm encouraging people. Be the voice, right? Express yourself. Let them know. But you know, I don't want to discourage. I don't want to be so discouraging, but it's like, bro, I don't think Nintendo gives a flying F about that chat right now. I don't think they give an F, bro. There's 51,000 people. There's 51,000 people here waiting. Seemingly, oh my God, their chat's crazy. It's going nuts. But there's 51,000 people in that chat right now or on the stream. And I'm like, that's nice. Nintendo's probably just thinking, like, they're getting ready to count the millions of pre-orders that they're about to get. Boss, for the love of God. They didn't turn off chat because they don't even know it exists. That has to be the funniest one, dude. They don't even know it exists. All right, let me catch up with these super chats. Generic White Male says, can I borrow $1? It's for my Switch 2 fund. No, bro, I got to save my dollar at this point, bro. I got to save my dollar for when Sony increases the price of games to $80. 51K is nothing. Bro, yesterday, really quick, before I read the rest of these super chats, did you guys see how Nintendo's stream was crapping out and glitching? And they had like 1.6 million people watching. I'm like, oh my God. Somebody, I want to say got in some trouble yesterday. Lux, you're saying, so Trump supporters did this, Rip Gaming. Oh my God, Lux. James, you're saying, yeah, not going to lie, I already thought about giving up gaming. And that's a viable, look, I know that's a very depressing thing to say, but that's an option. It really is. Like, I know people who have walked away from gaming. And that's not good that's the worst thing for these companies. The last thing they want is for somebody to just completely leave the hobby. But, you know, man, you look around and I look around and I see how miserable so many things are. Everybody's so unhappy with this. They're so miserable about that. They're ranting about this. They're upset about that. And I honestly think that maybe some people just kind of have to consider that, where it's like, maybe it's past your time, dude. Like, maybe you just don't like games anymore. And that's I'm not saying that like a condescending way. Like, that's a you problem. No, it's more like things have changed. Like, I think about the way I grew up playing video games, the way I played video games when I was a teenager versus the way things are now. And I acknowledge, like, things have changed dramatically. I'm okay with a lot of it, not all of it, but I also understand that for some people, it's like they're not okay with almost any of it. And if I felt that way, if I felt like, man, almost like nothing is appealing to me anymore, everything feels dire, everything looks like it sucks, and everything's just a drag, I would seriously have to contemplate, like, maybe I need to find another hobby to make myself happier, you know? But yeah, that's another thing too, is people keep mentioning back catalogs. I'm like, yeah, dude, that's another viable option, even more viable. Lux, you're saying most games are not on discs either. I don't know if that's true though. Lux, you're gonna have to give me more on this, man, because I'm pretty sure most PlayStation games are on disc. There are some that are not, but I'm pretty sure most are on disc. There's this Twitter account called like Does It Play, I think. And I think they went over this extensively. They were like, I mean, yeah, you get version 1.0, and that's true. So maybe that's what you mean. Like you might get, I guess, in a sense, an unfinished version. But I do understand what you're saying though, Lux. Like it's been diminishing where it seems like more and more you're not getting the full game on the disc. More and more it seems like, if you don't have that day one patch, you're kind of screwed. Like you could still play it, but it's like an unfinished game or whatever. And Lux, you're saying Xbox will be cheaper. It's American. They don't manufacture Xboxes in America though. So not the win you think it is, Lux. It's not the win you think it is. However, the one thing that people did bring up on the Microsoft side of things is Game Pass. And a lot of people feel as though, again, like if this is the direction we're going in, this is going to be Game Pass's time to shine. And it's like, yeah. Yeah, dude, Mike, you want to talk about a company that's probably licking their lips right now? It's Microsoft because they're like, bro, this is the best thing that could happen to Game Pass. Microsoft's probably thrilled at the idea of game prices going up and everything becoming not affordable. I mean, it does still hurt them in a sense that they're publishing their games on these platforms, but it's just like, they will be able to come in and be like, well, hey man, we got Game Pass. That's why I'm saying Sony might have to consider getting a little bit more aggressive with PS Plus going forward. It all depends, man. It depends on the market reaction. All right. We don't know the market reaction yet. We're seeing the internet's reaction. The internet is not the market. The market's reaction will be determined in upcoming quarterly earnings, NPD reports, and sales data. Again, I want to refer to the PS5 Pro. It's not exactly the same, but in this instance, it kind of is. The internet's reaction to the PS5 Pro was this thing's going to blow up. I mean, literally explode. Like it's going to not it's going to be the biggest dumpster fire mistake that Sony ever makes. Flash forward a month, 2-3 months later, we find out actually it sold pretty damn well, and the people who wanted it bought it. And it's running a little bit behind the PS4 Pro, which makes sense. I mean, you would hope it would. It's $300 more, but the point is, like, it didn't do what people thought it was going to do on the internet. If you had just gone based off the internet's reaction, you would have assumed that it's toast, and it's not. It's doing just fine. It's doing what Sony expected it to do, and that's why I think, like, it's always important when you see these knee-jerk internet reactions to be patient and see. Wait till we get the data. Wait till we get the results so we know what we're actually talking about here, in a more factual way. Whiskey Gaming, a longtime member, 49 months. 49 months. Thank you, Whiskey Gaming. You're saying here the only way we fully fail economically is if the US dollar stops being the world's reserve currency. That allows us to sell bonds, our debt, to other countries and banks. 80% of all economic deals are done in US dollars. Well, yeah, a lot of what you're saying here is true, Whiskey Gaming. What's interesting is not to, again, bring up politics or anything, but talking about the tariffs. That's what everybody's talking about. Um, I've seen people saying that, like, not only is this going to crash the U.S. economy, it's going to crash the world economy. I know. I'm sorry, Whiskey. I'm really behind. I'm sorry, but it's going to crash the world's economy too. And I'm like, well, I don't know what to say. Like, I hope that doesn't happen. You know. Really quick, I see people talking about Marathon. Um, we heard from Jeff Grubb a month ago. He said that Bungie is going to be doing a full reveal of Marathon in April, and Sony's going to be separate. Like, Sony will market it, obviously, but it's going to be Bungie doing it on their own. I'm saying this because I see people talking about, like, a state of play or a showcase. Marathon, as far as we know, is going to be fully revealed by Bungie themselves sometime this month. So don't get your hopes up too high. All right. Now that's a rumor that could be false, but it seems like that's what's going to happen. Lux, you're saying the prices go up from Sony, you'll skim over it. Yeah, we won't even cover it, dude. How funny would that be? You know what? I think I'll do just that, Lux. Prices go up. Sony announces next week prices go up for everything. I'll take a week off. No. No, we'll definitely cover it. Blake Wilson, you're saying HMBG with the $80 threshold now hit, GTA 6 will more than likely be at least $80 and potentially $100, especially if the more expensive editions give you early access. Good luck avoiding spoilers. Well, I mean, that's kind of the irony here, right? Is everybody was convinced that GTA 6 was going to be the thing to do it. It's going to be Take-Two with GTA 6. Nope. Actually, it was Nintendo. I do think that this is going to, I think that GTA 6 will be more expensive now. It will be at least $80. That's my expectation. I would be surprised if they didn't go through with it. But, you know, all right, man. I'll see you later, Gaming Survivor. But Blake, you're probably right. Kainsey7, you're saying Zelda Breath of the Wild remaster for Switch 2 equals $70 US. You're snoring. Days Gone remaster, or you're saying equals snoring. Days Gone remaster, $49 US. How can they charge so much for a remaster? That's ludicrous. Sony is stealing money. So I have seen numerous people, at least on Twitter, like PlayStation oriented people, kind of like it's a weird thing to see because it's like I understand what people are trying. They're basically trying to say like people are not keeping the same energy towards Nintendo that they've had towards Sony. I would argue that I am seeing the same. Well, at least I wouldn't even argue it, but I would just say personally, I feel like I'm seeing the same energy. We're very, very similar. I think you can't really fully compare the two things because people yesterday were. You have to think about the way Nintendo did it. Nintendo did the event and they nailed the event and they withheld very important information that would have killed that event or hurt it deeply. They saved that information for after the event to just kind of throw out there. And you could tell in my read on that is, and I think Nintendo was hoping that it would kind of go under the radar or not gain as much attention. Because what I saw was for the first 30 minutes to an hour after the event ended, people were high. They were like, this is the best event ever, 10 out of 10. Nintendo killed it. In the next 2 to 3 hours to follow, it seemed like everybody suddenly turned on Nintendo because they came across the bad news. And it created this kind of divide. So I do think that the energy is relatively evenly distributed. But yeah, man, I do kind of understand where some people are coming from, where I ultimately feel like a lot of the things that Nintendo is doing can be easily criticized because they it seems like they're behind in a way. You know what I mean? Like they're just now catching up with some things. Um but yeah, when it comes to the criticism that Sony's going to get, that's not going to stop. Because Sony is, I think they have made it very clear that they're going to continue to prioritize their business model, their audience that still likes to buy games, their audience that still buys hardware. They're going to prioritize that. And I understand that, again, there are people who want to constantly complain about it and bitch about it and try to crucify Sony for everything. But I just, it all comes back down to the same thing, which is they're not speaking into a void. Sony isn't putting this stuff, like Sony isn't putting Days Gone remastered out there into a void. They're just not. There's going to be, I've seen so many people talk about how they're going to play that game again. And I get it. Like there are people who look down upon that, and there are people who like walk around and like like we're better than that. Like Sony sucks, and it's like whatever, dude. Um, it's not going to change the fact that people want to play that game. And so I don't know, man. When it comes to what Nintendo's doing with their games, I will say $20. Yeah, they're pushing it further this time. Um, Considering the Switch 2's capability, I'm not exactly sure what how that's going to go down. Gord, you're saying it's so curious to me that everyone seems so certain that the price increases are because of greed and principle. $60 in 2015 is now worth $80. Well, see, I think this comes down to a it's it's tough because you're right. Like I think two things can be true at the same time. I firmly believe that. I will always believe that because I just think that's reality. Multiple things are true at the same time. I think what you're saying, you're highlighting inflation, right? Inflation is real. It's true. It's a thing. However, what's also real and true is greed, and that the name of the game in capitalism is keep going. Enough is never enough. So this is why there are people on one side of the fence that are like, don't you dare talk about inflation because this is pure corporate greed. And then people on the other side of the fence are like, listen, man, what do you expect them to do? Okay. It's like what you're saying here, Gord, right? Like $60 in 2015 is now worth $80. But yeah, the reality is it's both. It's that if these companies were to let go of their greed, they could like these are very rich companies. They could absolutely afford to give us better deals. There's no doubt about that. But they would make substantially less money. And what that would ultimately lead to for their bottom line and their business, especially if they're a publicly traded company, is probably no growth or minimal growth or maybe even a slight decline. And that, you know, in the capitalistic world, in the world of public trading, like that's a death rattle, right? Like that's the last thing. Like whoever made that decision would get fired, basically. Um, and that's I just think the reality, right? The reality is that both of these things are true and they're not going to change. Like inflation's not just going to disappear. Inflation is not just because you don't want to acknowledge inflation doesn't mean it's not real. It is, and it's affecting everything and everyone all the time. But you can't also ignore the fact that these companies are incredibly rich. But that's where the third argument comes, and where it's like, well, these companies are not charities. And that's also true. And that's why it all comes back down to what I was saying, Gord. And that is you got to just know when to walk away. You got to analyze the playing field. Inflation is real, it's affecting everything. These companies are rich and can absolutely, they're way richer than me. So I don't care about their money. I care about my money. So you got to you are the role of the consumer. But you also have to understand as the consumer that they are not a charity and they're free to do what they want. They're going to do what they want. They're going to do what's in their best interest. And you have to decide as a consumer if you're okay with that, if you're on board with that. So, again, I think it's just about taking a balanced approach. I think it's too easy. I think it's too easy to be an extremist in 2025 with anything. I think it's too easy to just jump to one end or the other, to scream about something, to yell about something, to get angry and upset about something. Maybe it's always been that way. Maybe it's just amplified now more than ever thanks to the reach of social media. I think what's difficult is to just kind of realize that there are multiple facets. There are multiple factors here that each need to be acknowledged individually, then put together as a whole, and then you use that to come up with your own conclusion that makes the most sense for you. Because at the end of the day, that's all you can do. You can't control what other people choose to do. You could try to influence them, but I'll tell you, through You know, from what I gather, if you want to spend time trying to influence other people, it can work. It can be fruitful, but it can also turn on a dime. People are fickle. That's just the reality. So you have to you got to know, you got to pick and choose your fights. Got to pick and choose your battles. Well, thank you for the super chat, Gord. I do appreciate that. We have okay. Hold on, I think my YouTube studio is about to crash. Let me give it a moment. I'm gonna have to refresh it. I'm catching up. I'm catching up with the super chats, I think. Gavin says a new game for me is 80 euros on PSN. That's $88. People are right to complain, but they'll keep buying the games and justify the price rise. Well, I mean, it again, Gavin, I think it just speaks to a part of human nature, right? I think a part of human nature is people like to complain. We all like to complain, at the end of the day, we all complain. Nobody's not a complainer. I think some people complain more than others. I think some people are more grateful than others. That's nothing new either, right? But at the end of the day, part of what we do is we complain about things because the human brain, biologically speaking, I don't know why I said speaking is programmed to identify problems. If we, if you have 10 things that need to be just right, and one out of those 10 things are not just right, your brain is literally naturally programmed to focus on the one thing that's not right and kind of almost ignore the 9 things that are right. It's kind of messed up if you think about it, but really all we can do is blame biology for that one. But it's true. That's how the human brain works. And so I think that at the end of the day, people, you talk about the idea of people keep buying the games and ultimately justifying it. I think it's because in the moment, I think in the moment, people prefer to just have that reaction, right? Where it's like, man, this sucks and I hate this and this is bad and I'm annoyed by this. But at the end of the day, the prospect of, but if you just pay it, you get to play this awesome game that you're really excited about and enjoy it. I think that wins out because I mean, I don't, all I can really say, Gavin, is kind of what you're pointing out is like, that's what people do. That's the human nature is most people. It's easy to complain. It's even easier to give in to your impulses. I think that's maybe the best way I could put it. And yeah, it is the unfortunate reality that in this consumer driven world, in in this industry we call gaming, yeah, they're aware. Like the people who are making these decisions and in charge of this, they're well aware that people will likely give in to their impulses. Yes, yes, they will. Not everybody, not all the time, but I think that explains why you're kind of pointing out here that it seems like people like we so many complaints and yet it just still happens. Gaming is an optional hobby. It is, or is it? You don't choose gaming. Gaming chooses you. Bro, Russell, come on, man. Like, what are we doing here? Come on. Tisk tisk. Josh Z with a $10 super chat says, for context, I'm unemployed and only get monthly SSI, and I still buy way more gaming stuff than I should. Most people who are already in an ecosystem will pay what they have to pay. And you know what? I mean, look, man, I think for a lot of people, life is short. I think people have that perspective of life is short. Um, I don't mean that literally. I just mean like we all kind of know that our time is limited. And I think that for for a lot of people, I think gaming, whether it be on Nintendo, whether it be on PlayStation, whether it be on Xbox, whether it be on PC, I think it genuinely brings them sincere, happiness. Not constantly, but enough. Enough that it feels worth the price, even if that price goes up. And it's kind of like what you're saying. Like, even if you're not loaded, right? Or, your funds are limited, you still want to kind of take portions of it and make sure for some people, gaming is a priority. And I think that's a reality that people don't want to talk about, right? I think people want to people kind of make it sound like, well, if you can't afford this, then that should be the last of your concern. But I think that, like, we say gaming is an optional hobby, and that's true. But if you grew up playing games and you grew up experiencing, because to me, video games are an intense hobby. I view video games that way, at least with AAA gaming, right? I'm not saying like playing like mobile games, you know, I guess it can be intense, but to me, it's an intense hobby because it really, it's something that basically sucks you in. It tries to get you immersed. It plays to your senses. It plays to your emotions. And other hobbies do that too. And you'll actually find that most other hobbies that do that are also very expensive. Who would have thought that all of these hobbies that play to your senses, play to your emotions, play to your humanity, they're all expensive. Um, and I just think that for a lot of people, the reality of it is a priority for them. Now, does that justify being reckless and irresponsible? And Josh, I'm not saying that's you. It's clearly not you, but for people who sometimes are reckless and irresponsible with their money, does that justify it? It's not my place to say. It's really not. And this is where I keep coming back down to the same point where it's like, bro, if there's a person out there, I said this when Redfall came out, man, and I will always refer back to this. When Redfall came out, in the middle of yelling at that game and yelling at what Microsoft did, I acknowledge that there's a person out there who was excited to play this. They bought it day one, or they got it on Game Pass day one, and they're loving every moment of it. They're happy. I don't understand it. I can't understand it, but it exists. It's not my place to turn to that person and say, you're not allowed to be happy. So I guess that's how I feel, man. I don't know if that's a libertarian thing, but it's just like, do what you want, man. Like, if buying the Switch day one and paying $90 for a physical version of Mario Kart World is what makes you happy, then who gives a shit? Do what makes you happy. If being on the internet and raging about it, and it reminds me of that song, that Soundgarden song, My Wave, you know, where I feel the basis of that song is just kind of like, just do what you want to do, man, and just keep that shit away from me. You know what I mean? Like I'll do my thing, you do your thing, and it's all fine. It's all good. Live your life, I'll live my life. Wait, that came out today. Oh, it did come out today. I forgot about that, Lux. Easy Tone, you're saying, sorry if you talked about it already, but how much do you think Duskblood is a sign that Sony botched the From Software relationship in some way? I didn't talk about it. Zero. I think people forget. This is the greatest irony um about the whole Duskblood game being announced. And yeah, people freaking out, being like, it's, and I'll admit, when I first saw it, I was like, that looks like Bloodborne. It's a multiplayer game. Really didn't expect that. Kind of shocking how many people changed their tune when they found out it was a multiplayer game, and they're like, no, thank you. The irony, though, is people forget that Sony owns a part of From Software in Katakawa. So Sony knew about this, dude, and they're on board with it. They're like, yeah, this is fine. Like, Sony has a partial, not full, but a partial say. They have some influence on what From Software does, what Katakawa does. And is this true? Is it true that it's a timed exclusive? Because I've been seeing people say that. And you're saying, how did Sony allow this? I'll tell you, I think it's just because, well, number one, Sony doesn't have full control over From Software. So I think if From Software decides they want to do a Switch exclusive, I don't know that Sony has enough ownership to override that. However, the more important thing here is you're talking about their relationship with From Software. They're talking about, like, does this mean we're not going to get a Bloodborne? I saw people basically saying, like, Sony wouldn't let From Software make Bloodborne 2 or whatever, so they did it with Nintendo. And I'm like, well, I understand why people thought that based on the trailer, but when you actually look into what this game is, it's absolutely nothing like Bloodborne. It has aesthetics. It has Bloodborne aesthetics, absolutely. But this is a PvPvE game, and it's up to 8 players. Like, it is not in any way, shape, or form Bloodborne. It's not even a spiritual successor to Bloodborne. So to me, what it indicates is that it's just something different from Software that, I think takes a lot of their sensibilities, right, from their other games and mashes them together. It would be great if it ends up coming to PlayStation. I think it's okay if it doesn't. But this has nothing to do with Sony's relationship with From Software. It also has nothing to do with Bloodborne. I can promise you this, and here's what nobody's talking about. Here's what nobody will tell you. If this game that we just saw, the Duskbloods, if Sony did a showcase this year and that game was announced as a PlayStation 5 exclusive, people would lose their minds and freak out on Sony. They would be destroying Sony. Do you know why? Because it's not Bloodborne. It's not Bloodborne. Nobody wants to acknowledge that. So the next time we see From Software and Sony announce a project together, it's very, very likely going to be something Bloodborne. Yeah, and yeah, that as well. Exactly, MRPD. People would be freaking out because, like, not only is it not Bloodborne, but it's multiplayer. So I think that actually this announcement is perfect for the Switch 2, where it's like, yeah, From Software showing some love to Nintendo, making it a different type of game. No. To be clear, Lux, I don't think it's bad because it's multiplayer. I'm saying that's the reaction I've seen from people. I don't agree with that. I think the game looks good. I like, me, I like multiplayer games. I think Elden Ring Night Rain looks sweet. But there are definitely some From Software enthusiasts that at the moment they hear multiplayer, they're like, oh, I'm good. No, thank you. But I think that to me, that was the highlight of the show. You're saying Digital Foundry saying Last of Us is bad on PC? Dragon Knight, you're saying, didn't it say price may vary or something? Yeah. The $80 and $90 price point for Switch games is not across the board, which is weird because I don't know why that is. You would think at a moment like this, they would just rip the Band-Aid off and make it that way. Maybe what we will see in the future is exactly this. Maybe I've been overthinking it. Maybe in the future, what we're going to see is just publishers picking and choosing the price points for their games. Or maybe they're testing the waters. It could be that too. But maybe certain games that they feel are we think this is worth $80. They'll sell it for $80. Maybe other games, they'll say 50 or 60, Like, why was Astrobot $60 and not 70? I mean, I'm cool with that. That's great. But it's like a serious question. Like, what made them make that decision? Something made them make that decision. IP value, you think, will dictate price? Yeah. I mean, that's probably the safest way to go about it. Lux, you're saying the government is rich, but they tax us to shit. Actually, the government is not rich. At least the U.S. government. The U.S. government's like $34 trillion in debt. So they have means to acquire money, but every time the government acquires money, they just accumulate more debt. That's the big problem, Lux. That's why people are freaking out. That was 36 trillion. My bad. Yeah, it was 2 trillion, just a mere 2 trillion off. The problem is that the US needs to get out of that debt. And there's no way around it. That's going to be brutal. Getting out of $36 trillion dollars in debt, that's not something that happens overnight. That's not something that happens without a lot of pain. Think of it as if you were $100 million in debt. Like, what does your life look like? Like, if you know, like, I got to get out of $100 million in debt, right? I have to. I can't just stay in $100 million in debt. What does the next 10 to 20 years of your life, maybe not 20, but at least like 10 to 15 years of your life look like? You probably realize it's going to be shit because I have to basically give up everything or most things if it's even viable, right? Like you're not going to be able to live a life of comfort and luxury when you're trying to climb out of $100 million in debt. Basically, what's happening right now is Trump is trying to solve the $36 trillion debt crisis by going all in and trying to do everything at once and hoping it all comes together. And it might, but there's so much resistance to it because it essentially is gonna, yeah, it's gonna cause massive pain for almost everybody. And that's why when I said earlier, like, well, if this isn't gonna solve it, then what else can we do? I don't know. I'm not qualified to answer that question. Fuck if I know. You know? I don't even know how you get 36 dillion dillion, $36 trillion in debt. I don't even know how you do that. So I definitely would have no idea how to get out of that. I guess we'll just see what happens. You're saying the debt crisis and tariffs don't have anything to do with each other? It's about overspending and low taxes. I mean, yeah, there's way more factors at play. Like I may not even know what the hell I'm talking about, truthfully. It's just that my general, like, to my understanding, it just seems like the US has been rapidly accumulating trillions of dollars of debt, and that needs to stop. And we need to be able to, like, I don't know, figure out how to. It's like when people talk about, well, this is going to be good because, like, we're going to start doing things here in the US, creating more jobs, making our own products. But it's, it's going to take years. We got to build all the infrastructure. We got to train people. We got to hire people and train them. We got to learn the skills. There's many things that we either don't do or stopped doing, um, or lessened. And we basically, yeah, if we're trying to bring everything in house again, I'll tell you right now, there's a lot of people who aren't going to want to do those jobs too. So I don't know. It's a really complicated mess, dude. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend I have the answers. I see people do that all the time, and I don't think anybody actually has the answers. I don't think it's simple. I don't think it's as simple as, well, just do this. I just hope that nothing terrible happens. I don't know. I'm hoping for the best, but anyway, um, that happens when you don't have enough taxes to pay for the government spending. Planet Slurping, you're saying, MBG, I'd wager that Ubisoft actually gave Sony a run for their money with AC Shadows. As it stands now, I feel like it is the samurai/ninja game. Damn, Planet Slurpian. You are high on Assassin's Creed Shadows. That's surprising, man. I'm surprised by that. I have to say I'm surprised by that. I don't know if I'm gonna end up playing it or not. But wait, Robert, are you saying I'm high? Hold on. I can never tell in the chat if you guys are talking to me or somebody else. The stream is a real bummer. Is it? Well, I'm not trying to be. I guess that's the problem with being overly realistic. Sometimes I do play the role of the realist too much, and I think it can be a bit of a bummer. I'm not trying to bum anybody out. Carl's keeping the positivity. He's saying, at least for now, we can enjoy playing our PS5s. I mean, it's true. It's true, though. It is true. Gaming is great. But I'm glad you guys are, at least, even if you guys aren't feeling the energy of the stream, I still very much appreciate you hanging out. Believe me, it's tough because like I feel like coming in and taking a really aggressive stance and being really hard nosed about it. I think it would create different energy that I think would appeal to more people, more broadly speaking. But I don't know, man. I can only do that when I really feel that way. I can't fake that. I can't force that. Pushing Polygon says, MBG, I'm not moving the goalpost. I've always said I would go up to $100. And then that's when I get super selective. Well, you already knew. Yeah, you already knew. Well, I mean, people's wages change too, like it depends on how much money you're making at any given time. I think like if you're making really good money consistently, if you have like a really good yearly salary and your job has some level of security, if you love gaming and games go up to $100 and you could easily afford it, it's like, yeah, it's a non-issue for you basically. But, it's different for everybody. Um Sally, you're saying Nintendo has done this in the past. Lower the price on the console, raise the price on the games. You can reference the old N64 catalogs if curious. Yeah, but Sally, I feel like what's interesting though is that the Switch 2 price isn't lowered either. I mean, it's 450, 500. Yeah, that's true. Release to Kraken. Yeah, you're probably right about that. Yeah, I don't know. When it comes to what Nintendo has done in the past versus what they're doing now, I still do feel like that this is. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong because I was really young at that time and I wasn't paying attention to anything. I didn't know anything. I feel like this is different, but I'm not sure, Solly. Josh Z, you're saying DK 3D platformer first in 20 years. Same for Kirby Racing. Sony, take notes. You think Sony's gonna be like, we gotta bring back something we haven't done in like 20 years? Lux, you're saying The Last of Us Part 2 is out, 19K concurrent players on Steam. And I read your chat about multiplayer, and you're saying most From Software games have multiplayer elements. Agreed. Yeah, they do. And I've always loved those multiplayer elements. I think what's a little bit different about the Duskbloods is that it's like a full-blown multiplayer game. Like it's like 8-player multiplayer. And I think you're all just in the world at the same time, fighting each other, fighting enemies. It sounds kind of cool. I like it. I like the idea of it. It's interesting the timing of it though, where like they announced this multiplayer S game at around the same time that Elden Ring Night Reign's getting ready to release. Seems like From Software's pushing a little bit more into the multiplayer direction. Angry Well Watcher, member for 19 months, says gamers want to pay less for digital games than physical, and Nintendo agreed. LOL. I'm out on the Switch 2 for now, despite my sizable digital library. Yeah, well, I mean, if I feel like if physical game sales were stronger, I almost feel like you would maybe even see publishers willing to discount their games a little bit more digitally to kind of incentivize people to go digital. But it's an interesting situation we're seeing unfold because people are just willingly diving headfirst into digital and being like, yeah, this is great. And I've always tried to like kind of warn against that a little bit where it's like, well, if we get to a point where pretty much everybody is going digital only, there will still be competition, of course, through the digital storefronts, but it ultimately does give way more control to the publisher, or the platform holder. And that can be a bit of a slippery slope. GTV with a $5 chat says peeps need to play their backlog. I have been Going back to platinum all the Resident Evils, you don't need the new shiny game every release date. Wait for sales, play your games. Yeah, you're like the third person today that I've seen bring this up, talking about the idea of going back, playing your backlog, basically. Yeah, it's I'm telling you, man, like if the struggle is gonna be as real as people assume it will be, then yeah, that's I think gonna be what most people end up actually doing. Um, but it is listen, man, I'm the worst person to speak on this only because I can't I'm not gonna pretend that I am not the person that needs to be there day one for like it depends on the game, but like a game like Death Stranding 2, like there's no chance that I'm gonna wait for that. Metal Gear Solid Delta, Ghost of Yotei, GTA 6, like zero chance. And the idea of like, well, if you wanted to buy physical versions of all those games, $100 a pop. I mean, dude, that's $400 right there. And it's like, yeah, don't know if that's feasible for me, you know. And that future does sound crappy, you know. It really does because it's like, I don't know, man. The idea of having to pick and choose on like if there are like 4 or 5 games that I absolutely want to play, right? Like day one over the course of like 4, 5, 6 months. If we were at a point where like we get it's like physical games are gonna be $100 a pop. I mean, yeah, dude, that's I'm gonna have to start telling you guys you gotta drop more membership gifts, bro. I gotta afford these games. Or you know what? Maybe I'll start going to these publishers and being like, so hey, I'm a content creator. Can I get a code? Can you throw me a code here? You know, start code begging, begging these publishers. But we'll see what happens, man. I just thought it would be interesting to have this conversation about some of the fallout with the Switch 2 and you know, when it comes to Sony's reactions. Yeah, I know. I know. Hey guys, I know everybody's like getting poorer. Can I get more memberships? I have to appeal to the filthy rich. About to email Raid Legends. Yeah. Raid Shadow Legends or whatever. Yeah, I don't even know. Is that still a relevant game? But when it comes to what Sony will do, I think right now Sony's just sitting back and watching. They're waiting and they're watching. And I think that what we are seeing happen right now with Nintendo is absolutely relevant to what Sony will do in the coming years, and especially with the PlayStation 6 and next gen. And I mean, the the elephant in the room, in my opinion, definitely is the pricing of not only Sony's next gen hardware, but their games as well. Where, I mean, how much are you guys willing to pay for a PS6? How much is the mass market willing to pay for a PS6? How much are you guys willing to pay? Like if Spider-Man 3 and The Last of Us Part 3, you know, and Sony Santa Monica's new IP, if these or the next God of War, like if these games are going to be $80 digitally, 90 physically, would you be willing to pay for them? Yeah, that's what's gonna happen, Nobbenzer. That's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna have to go make amends. With what money? Asks Domingos. Yeah, I don't know, man. Lux, you're saying the Mario Kart bundle will be a limited time offer. Do you think so? I was assuming I don't know, man. I was assuming that that's not the case. Titus, you're saying I drop a 50, but I need to hear at least a 15-minute rant about the evils of capitalism, late stage, and the endless greed of companies tied to modern Sony and Nintendo. Call my bluff. A 15-minute rant, eh? Well, Titus, let me tell you a thing or two about the evils of late stage capitalism, end stage capitalism. It really does suck. Like, I know I'm like being facetious, but no, it really does suck, dude. Like, we've hit we've hit the ceiling, bro. Lux, you're saying IGN posted? Oh, shit, man. Okay, why when I go on Twitter am I seeing trending in the United States the banks are out of money? Okay. Well, guys, things are looking so Titus, as you were saying about end stage capitalism. And Ray comes in, Ray's like, "I got you, bro. I got you." He's dropping another 5 membership gifts. Ray, thank you so much for that, buddy. I really do appreciate the support. I mean, look, not all the conversations are sunshine and rainbows, but I try to keep it real. And I really do appreciate you guys showing support. You guys dropping membership gifts, super chats. It's what allows me to continue to do this. And very grateful for that. I try not to lose sight of how, um, how lucky I am and appreciate it. Really appreciate that, man. Let me see here. Wait, hold on. Oh, okay. That was a. All right, let me check IGN. You're saying they confirmed it. Nintendo has said that the Switch 2 Mario Kart World Bundle will actually be a limited time production through to fall 2025, at least in the US, and available while supplies last. Wow. Wow. Okay. Wow. I'm really surprised by that. I would have thought that that was a bundle they sell for the whole generation. Well, there we go. I guess that they want to get that $80. GTV, a member for 7 months, says, "What are the actual chances of a PlayStation showcase? Do you think RE9 will be present? And will we finally get to see Marathon? Do you think it's on pace?" I think there's a pretty good chance of a PlayStation showcase. Not a great chance, just a good chance. Because, next month, it'll be 2 years since we got a proper PlayStation showcase. If we don't get a showcase, we're guaranteed to get a state of play. However, I would prefer a showcase. I think the time has come, again, it's 2 years. Like, Sony's been doing, I think, a pretty good job with their state of plays, but it would be nice to get a big pop from Sony. But I'm trying to keep my expectations realistic, and I'm trying to, keep in mind that just because I want to showcase and I feel like it would make sense to do one doesn't mean Sony will do one. Sony's on their own schedule, obviously. They have their own plans. Um, and when it comes to RE9, I think we will see Resident Evil 9 revealed. I think we will see it revealed before the end of this year. I don't think Resident Evil 9 is coming until uh, next year, though. I think they're gonna kind of save it for the 30th anniversary of Resident Evil. That's my assumption. And lastly, when it comes to Marathon, yeah, I think Marathon is going to be we heard from Jeff Grubb, like I said, that Marathon's going to be shown off this month by Bungie. So, I'm assuming we're going to hear about that soon. Yeah, Bungie teasing more Marathon news. Hold on. Okay. Yeah, so I'm looking at the Marathon stuff. I think we're going to be hearing about it very soon. Resident Evil Zero remake. Yeah, apparently that's something that's in the works as well. All right, Eternal. Take care, man. You think they'd remake RE1 for the 30th? Yeah, I mean, that would make the most sense, but as far as we know, RE1 remake is not in development. I don't think so anyway. I haven't heard anything about that. I've heard about RE0, and we know about Resident Evil 9. Like, we know Resident Evil 9's coming, but that would make the most sense. I know that they remastered Resident Evil 1, I think back in like 2015. But a full blown, like, proper remake from the ground up, like RE2 and RE3 and RE4 style, that'd be great. Planet Slurping, you're saying if we're getting a Resident Evil 0 remake, we'll probably get a 1 remake too. I could see it, but I mean, would they put both out at the same time? I don't know that they would do that. Like, if they're getting the same care and attention and treatment as the other remakes, I don't know. I don't know. Let me go check. Okay. Wow, Lux, that's really funny. That's really funny timing, dude. I was literally about to say, as that super chat came through, that I'm going to go check to see how many players are playing The Last of Us Part 2 Remake. Last of Us 2 on the rise, now 22K players. Gangbusters? I can't tell if you're being sarcastic. I feel like that's not great. Let's check. It's got an 81% for reviews. Yeah, 22,000 players. Well, it's only been a couple of hours, actually, right? It's only been out for, what, 3 hours? It's number 6 in top sellers. 160 positive reviews, 19 negative reviews. It seems to be doing okay. You are being sarcastic. Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing, man. Like, I don't know what Sony's expectations are anymore with PC games. Let me go check Spider Man 2. It's been a while. Where did that get to? Yeah, see, this, I feel like something's going on here, right? Where Spider Man Remastered for PC, August 12th, 2022, all time peak, 66,400 players. 66,400. Spider Man 2, which came out January 30th this year, all time peak, 28,000. Basically cut in half, dude. Drive by Joe, you're saying, what do you think is going to happen if the U.S. gets out of debt? Ain't nothing going to change. Sorry, a little behind on the stream. Yeah, you're a little bit behind. I mean, truthfully, if the U.S. gets out of debt, probably just go right back in debt. You know, I mean, I think the cycle is just going to be vicious and it'll just continue. That's my guess. Angry Well Watcher, you're saying it's midday on a Thursday. Game has to be out for a few hours. Well, let's give it some time. We'll give it a little bit of time. I mean, what's interesting about The Last of Us Part 2 being at 22K already is that Spider-Man 2 took, I think, a couple days to peak at 28K. So, Russell, you're saying, do you think Neil Druckmann is lying about his comment on agreeing with Joel's decision to try and claw back some of the fans lost with The Last of Us 2? No, I don't think so. Because that's stupid. Like, I think you don't have to like Neil Druckmann, but I think he's smart enough to know that that's not gonna change people's opinion on him or the decision made with The Last of Us, Part 2. Well, let me go check for reference. So, Spider-Man 2 peaked at 28K. The Last of Us Part 1 PC concurrent. Let's see what that looks like. So, The Last of Us Part 1 only peaked at 36,000 2.1 years ago. March 28th, 2023. 36,400. Let's just round it up. It's 36,496. We'll round it to 36.5K. So let's see if part 2 can beat that. And if it does beat that, how much further does it go? Lux, you're saying Schedule 1 had 414K players in its first day. I feel like, what game are you saying, Lux? I know you're saying Schedule 1, but I don't know. I don't know what game that is. I'm confused. Oh, good job, Lux. You effectively confused me. Bro's trying to mess with my brain. Um, okay. Oh, you were Schedule 1. It's made by one person. That's the name of the game. I could have. That's a good thing you told me, dude, because I wrote it off as a typo. Schedule 1. What the F is this game? No way. You're telling me this had over 400,000 concurrent players? Schedule 1 creator seems to have vastly undersold how much content is in the new Steam hit. Bro, that's crazy. Maybe Sony does need to take notes. Dude, you're right. It peaked at 414,000 players. And it just came out March 24th. From a small-time dope pusher to kingpin, manufacture and distribute a range of substances throughout the grungy city of Highland Point. Expand your empire with properties, businesses, employees, and more. And the art style, though. The art style. That's crazy, dude. Wow. Yeah, I didn't even know about this game. And here it is. Breaking records. Saying that game is good. GTV, you're saying rank top 5 PlayStation studios in order. In order? God, that's, you're putting me on the spot, GTV. In order. Lux, you're saying it's actually fun at Breaking Bad Sim. Let me see. In order. So number 1 for me would probably have to be, I think, I don't know, I might have to give it to Santa Monica. Number 2, feel like I'm gonna have to give that to, mm, I want to say, I want to say Naughty Dog, but it's a tough one because, like, for me, I'm trying to be like objective about it, but just for me personally, number 2, I guess I'd have to give it to Naughty Dog, man. Like, even though I'm not super stoked about, they're just too skilled, man. Like, I still, I still have too much confidence in them. Maybe not that they haven't earned it. Three, I feel like three should go to Insomniac, but I would probably put Sucker Punch there. Then I'd probably put four Insomniac, and then five. I think I'd have to give it to Team Asobi, dude. Believe it or not, I don't know. That's a tough one, man. Because like I left out Gorilla, I left out Housemark. But yeah, I guess I'll just leave it at that for now. I have to put more thought into it. I mean, yeah, I feel like Gorilla is in a top five. But there's probably recency bias here, though. You know. Alien, you're saying The Last of Us sold 35 million copies. How is it a flop? Even part two did 10 million. It sold more than Tsushima. Um, I mean, I don't think The Last of Us is a flop, dude. I don't. Even Last of Us Part Two. I think some people view The Last of Us Part Two as not, you know, it's not as successful. I just realized my screen brightness is insane, but I'll just leave it. I think that The Last of Us Part Two definitely struggled to sell as well as Part One or the first game. But then again, The Last of Us 1 was resold on PS4 as a remaster, and it did really, really well because a lot of people didn't play it on PS3. Um, you know, I don't know, but I don't see The Last of Us. The Last of Us is a successful series. No, like just objectively speaking. Objectively speaking, The Last of Us is a very successful series, but whether they can keep that up if they do like a part three, I don't know. I think that they have lost some fans. I think Naughty Dog has lost some fans. There's no doubt about that. But I don't think Naughty Dog's. I think people make it sound like Naughty Dog is like a complete shell of their former self, and like they have no fans. And it's like that's not true. Lux, you're saying The Last of Us 2 is not a flop. It sold at least 25K on PC. Dude, I'm telling you, man, I don't know if Sony is penetrating the PC market the way that they would like to. Like, I don't know. I don't know what their expectations are. Like, I mean, 25,000 copies sold doesn't sound like a lot, but when you consider that it's just, I guess, extra money, right? Like it's free money, not free, but but it would be more than that, I would imagine. Like I think they're gonna get more than that, and I don't know. I don't know what Sony's expectations are, dude. We're gonna find out. Well, I mean, what are the next games that are releasing from PlayStation on PC after this? Lost Soul aside, and I guess Marathon. Nintendo finally disabled the chat. Oh my god, bro. somebody had to do something. That's so funny. They actually disabled it. It seems like they're struggling, but it's all older games. It's impossible. Yeah, it's impossible to determine Sony's success on PC without knowing what Sony's expectations are. I mean, The Last of Us Part 2 came out in 2020. It's been out for years, you know? So it's like I I don't know. What it like are they expecting it to blow up and do incredible? I feel like it would be unexpected. Like I feel like the most likely thing is they look at how The Last of Us Part 1 did and then base their expectations off of that. So the fact that they took the time to port Part 2 after seeing that Part 1 peaked at 36K they're probably fine with it. They're like, okay, if it could do somewhere in that ballpark, we're happy with that. We'll take that money. That's my assumption. Most games they put out are not games PC players buy. Yeah, they should have put out something like Schedule One, dude. Sony. Does Sony have any games in development right now that you would say are more would be potentially more appealing to PC players? I mean, how do we think Marathon will do on PC? Well, I mean, it's hard to say how Marathon's going to do it all, but Helldivers 3, I think I don't know if Helldivers 3 is ever going to happen, and if it does, I think that's many years away. Saying 25K is concurrent player numbers, they've easily sold more than 100K units. Well, yeah, that's the thing about looking at concurrent. It doesn't that's not like sales, right? It gives you maybe an idea of like how far the sales have gone, but they definitely sold more than 25K. Yeah. Perfect image. Hold on. You're saying I think I did read your perfect image. I think I did read your chat, but I'll double check. A direct donation. Oh, okay. Sorry, man. I don't know why that notification didn't go off. You sent another one. You're saying my 12-year-old daughter was like, we still have uh Nintendo, Game Pass, Switch 1 games, can play on Switch 2. I was like, yeah. She said it was a win to me, but that's $90. Hold on. I'm trying. Perfect image. I might need your help here, man. I'm gonna need a. I'm gonna. I'm. I don't. I'm confused. I'm just gonna be honest. I'm confused about what you're saying. My 12-year-old daughter was like, "We still have." You said Nintendo Game Pass, Switch One, and I'm like, I'm very confused. Perfect image. Lux, you're saying Helldiver style games work, not so much single player. Well, oh, you meant to say Switch Online. Oh, okay, okay. I would imagine Helldivers 3 will happen at some point. But the thing I'm thinking of, Lux, is there's that one game from the newly announced studio, Dark Outlaw Games, Jason Blundell studio. They're working on a multiplayer co-op game. So I'm like wondering if maybe Sony, the reason why they're sticking with it, and they're like, we'll give this guy studios because they're like, this could be, this could be another Helldiver situation. This could be some kind of co-op multiplayer. And GTV says, why would Sony not have bought Arrowhead? Mistake. I think that Sony had no idea. Well, let's be honest. Nobody knew how successful Helldivers was going to be. Sony didn't know. Arrowhead didn't know. So it's a situation where once they saw how successful the game was, yeah, I'm sure Sony could have bid on them. They could have made an offer. But once Arrowhead realized how successful they are, they're like, yeah, they don't need to sell to anybody. They can maintain their independence. So I think if Sony had any idea, any inclination how successful Helldivers 2 was going to be, I think you know, they would have bought them. But now I think Arrowhead's just going to be a partner studio. Sony's about to go all in on point and clicks. Perfect image. You're saying my daughter said I'm okay with Switch Online and old Switch 1 games. Go to the Switch 2. But the $90 is not a win. Okay, thank you for clarifying that perfect image. I appreciate that. Yeah, and I mean that's the thing, man. I do think that there are going to be a lot of people who are like, I'm okay with the Switch One. You are going to miss out on some games, but I think some people are going to be totally fine being late to it. Um, but you know, If you are going for the Switch 2 and you're okay with that, you do have backwards compatibility. I did see apparently Kotaku was reporting that 120 Switch games are not going to work on the Switch 2. So like there are going to be people who wait, but if you're somebody who's going to go for the Switch 2, you do have the advantage of you can bring, I would assume, the majority of your Switch 1 collection with you. Yeah, the $90 for physical games is that's brutal. That's absolutely brutal. Hold on one sec, guys. People will buy it to play old games just to upgrade. Guys, so we're at the 2 hour and 55 minute mark. We're going to go for 5 more minutes and then we're going to wrap this stream up. Okay. So this will be like a last call. If you want to drop any more support, we are at 10 members for the day. So we are 15 members away from hitting that goal of 25. I don't know if we'll be able to do it. I don't know if we'll be able to pull it off in just 5 minutes, but we have that opportunity. But if you want to drop any more super chats or direct donations or anything like that, now is the time to do it. I always try to give that little warning as we are approaching the end of the stream, just because I don't want to, you know, there have been rare instances where people are a little bit behind, and then I end the stream, and then they're like super chat comes through or donation or whatever, and I have to wait for the next day to acknowledge it. All right. Pay $80 or $90 for games on PlayStation, or just download and play them on Game Pass. I'll be heading to Xbox. They value our budgets as gamers, most consumer friendly companies in the gaming industry. For now, Dark Cloud, for now. Again, like that's fine. I mean, there's a real reason to consider Game Pass, right? Right now, Sony games are not $80 or $90, but they don't need to be for people. I've already seen people say that 70 is too much for them and they go to Game Pass. But you have to understand that if the model ever does switch over, where like, I guess what I mean to say is if Microsoft ever has the leverage they need or they want with Game Pass, they're not going to be worried about your value. They're going to be worried about increasing the prices. But that's exactly where Nintendo and Sony and most of the industry is right now. So I'm just trying to say that, like, go where you can for now. Save money where you can for now. If Game Pass for you is the best option for what it's offering and you feel like it's worth the money, stick with it, But in the same way that we look at the price of games going up and we're assuming that it's going to, in the next 2, 3, 4 years, $80, $90, whatever's going to be standard, the price of the price of these subscription services are going to go up as well. Keep in mind, the price of Game Pass went up, to $20. It's not going to go down. It's only going to go up from there. So just, keep that in mind. These companies at the end of the day, they want as much money as possible from as many people as they can get it. If Xbox is ever in a position of strength with Game Pass, where it seems like Game Pass is taking over and more people are subscribing to Game Pass than buying games, they will be in a position where they can increase the price comfortably. I mean, they kind of already did that after they got Activision Blizzard, right? So, I mean, yeah, if you're staying sub to Game Pass for a year, it's $240. Obviously, that's not the equivalent of if you're buying 5 or 6 games for $70 a pop, but you are renting those games on Game Pass. So it's all, apples and oranges. It depends on how you play games. Lux, you're saying The Last of Us 2 is only £40 on Steam. Maybe we just wait for PC. Wait, hold on. How much is it on Steam? Really? It's $50. So it's $50 for me anyway. Why is there no price? It's $50 on PC right now. A physical copy on Amazon is 60. On the PlayStation Store, let me check. Curious. It's $50 on the PS Store as well. So it's the same price digitally. $10 more physically. I mean, I don't know. Like, it depends. Like I said, man, if you are willing to wait for games in the UK, it's £40. I wonder why it's so cheap in the UK. I don't know if that's going to be a thing that continues or what. I mean, if you are willing to wait for games, I'm usually not. But if you are willing to wait for games, I mean, that's the best way to go about it, dude. It's the best way to go about it. But guys, we did hit the 3-hour mark, so this is going to be where I wrap up today's stream. I want to extend a big thank you to everybody who tuned in today and hung out with me, and especially those of you who dropped any direct support. A lot of super chats. Very much appreciate that, guys. If you dropped any memberships, any direct donations, anything like that, it all helps tremendously. I'm only able to do this here because you guys make it possible for me to do it. And so we'll keep it going. And yeah, I thought we had some really interesting conversations today. I guess we'll see what happens. We'll see if any PlayStation news is going to be coming out. I feel like right now the spotlight's on Nintendo and the Switch 2. Understandably, that's how it should be. But yeah, guys, I hope you continue to hold on. Saying you got charged for a membership gift, but it didn't show up. Really, Gavin? Gavin, did you try? Like, you're saying you dropped a membership gift, but it didn't show up or go through? That's weird. I don't think I've ever had that happen before. I see a milestone chat you did. You did a 23-month milestone chat. It said it was canceled, but it got charged anyway. Oh. What'll probably, I mean, I can't promise you this because I mean, that's on your bank's end or YouTube's end, but what will probably happen, Gavin, I don't know why it got canceled, but if it got automatically canceled, you probably will get refunded the money once it's done pending, I would assume. GTV, you're saying, how do you gift memberships on iOS? On iOS, you have to do it through a browser. You have to do it through a browser. So whether I think you can do it through Safari. I know you can do it through Chrome. You can gift memberships through through desktop. But if you're doing it on iOS, you have to do it through a browser because for some reason you still can't. Yeah, it's possible. A lot of people do it that way, but it's just you got to do a little bit of a workaround. Hopefully one day they'll change that, but. Stream tomorrow. There should be. Yeah, what's tomorrow? Friday? There should be. Be on the lookout. If we don't have a stream tomorrow, we will guaranteed have a stream on Sunday. I go live at 12 p.m. Eastern. That's the time I go live, like 99% of the time. 12 p.m. Eastern. We should have a stream tomorrow, but if for some reason we don't, we will be back here Sunday. And so, guys, yeah, please enjoy the rest of your day. Sorry if, I mean, maybe the energy was a bit low today or it was a bit of a downer stream, but it's because, the whole world's collapsing apparently. So I don't know. I'll try to find some peace today, some happiness. All right, guys, that does it. I will catch you in the next stream. So until then, take care, everyone.